Alrighty, are we up? We're up and running. How you guys all doing today? Had a nice, relaxing recovery day from capitalism. Got my apartment nicely cleaned up. Did a good sweep, did a vacuum. Not that my doggy liked that. He really hates it when I pull out the vacuum. Yes, I know, just like every other dog, right? What is this strange machine that we're bringing out into the world? But it's nice. It's nice to have a somewhat swept up, somewhat cleaned up apartment for once. Isn't it great? Isn't it great, right? Take care of yourself like that. Outside of that, nice and chill day, honestly. A really beautiful day. I wanted to go out and I was talking on Friday about doing walkabout videos again. And I decided against it today just because today was extremely windy. So I did another kind of cut and paste. Hey, Nova Scotia, coming in early with an 8. How you doing today, bud? I'm glad to see you, bud. Glad to see you. Gonna let more people come into the chat, I think, before we move on to that. I've got some exciting news today. I got one song that I'd like to present. I'm gonna present these songs about 7, as I do. And then, hey, Aga, how you doing? Early for you, Aga. You're usually in much later. So I got one of my own pieces that I'm going to be presenting probably around 7 o'clock, and then one of my Patreons, and a fellow who I've been hanging around with a little bit. He's a good guy. He decided to show me one of his songs that he's been writing, and he's given me permission to play his song on the chat today. So at around 7 o'clock, we're going to get 2 new songs, one of them written by myself and one of them written by one of my contributors, one of my Patreons. It's going to be exciting. Something to show in the future. I love this picture. I love this picture. Just the classic equity, equality, right? And straight up, they're just like, yeah, but this is what capitalism is. And this is what capitalism is, right? I've been noticing it more and more that it's getting harder and harder to pretend like something else is happening, right? Like, that's basically what I think happened throughout my whole life, is that there was this utopian idea of what capitalism was that was floating around, and people pretending like it was a voluntary system, and people pretending like it was actually doing what it claimed to do. And just, I never saw that was the case, and very steadily it's becoming more and more obvious until finally, like, all of the expressions of capitalism and all of the expressions of attempts to work within the capitalist structure are going to be used against capitalism ultimately, because it's obviously fraudulent. It's become apparent. I'm really excited about it. I got a bunch of songs ready to go. I'm going to get them recorded, going to get them up on Bandcamp. People have been buying my songs on Bandcamp, so I feel like, hey, at this point it's all just about exposure. Yeah, it's perfect, right? Well, what I like about it is that it uses kind of what we've all seen this image before, of the equality and equity, right? It's being used as a way to be like, this is what we should be gearing towards and all this, but someone finally came along and was just like, yeah, but this image isn't really showing us what capitalism actually is. And so now it has. And it's perfect. It's exactly right. It's like cops beating up brown people, CIA agents coming in and murdering children the way that they do, and like all of the boxes just owned by a single dude who's so far away from the game that they're detached from it in the first place. Oh yeah, I got things are happening. Things are happening. I know, it feels good. I'm still waiting for that other shoe to drop. But we'll see how it goes. Okay. I've kept you guys on the hook for long enough. We got an 8, we got a 3. If there's anyone else in the chat who's just lurking around, feel free to pop in with your number between 1 and 10. The mystical, magical David Lynch, going to be picking a number for us. I am going to go with a...
Here we go for today's number.
6.
It's November 1,
I'm going with a 6. I don't know why I paused to try to manifest. I've only ever gotten this twice.
Each ball has a number.
Each ball has a number.
Numbers 1 through 10.
Here we go. We only got 3 players today.
Swirl the numbers.
Swirl the numbers. Come on, 6.
Pick a number.
Big ol' 6.
Today's number is 1.
Wonk, wonk. You know what I say about 1? I say we all win on a 1. That's what I think. Because we're all 1. We're all number 1. I say we all win on a 1. Let's do it. Lonnie in late with a 5. No good, Lonnie. No good. Sorry. Yeah, we all lost today. Oh well. The only time I've ever won this draw, funnily enough, is that I've won twice, and both days, the first day I won was the day I recorded my songs, and then the second time I won was the day I got the songs and uploaded them onto Bandcamp. So it's like, I don't necessarily think magic is real, but it felt like magic was real when it happened. I was like, oh, mystical. Lonnie, yeah, we all won. Let's say we all won. Forget about us all being losers. Let's all be winners today. Let's all be winners today. Super glad you guys are here. So let's move on to the day's news. I'm gonna hang off on this one just a bit because I'm gonna read this one straight through. This article, I'm just gonna like front load it. From the Jacobin, right? Meet the gaggle of ghoulish capitalists haunting Canada. This is like a brilliant write-up, if you ask me. It's like one. I've only read it. I haven't read it out loud yet, but I know it's going to be really fun to read out loud. So I'm going to be reading this one out loud in just a moment, probably at around 6:30. And so get ready for this. Now, let's just pop into some of the day's news quick. Only 484 marijuana pardons have been granted since the program started. The government initially estimated that about 10,000 Canadians would be eligible for the pardons, known as record suspensions. Why are people not just going through the pardon system and getting pardoned? Because it's cumbersome, because it's difficult to do, because instead of simply saying, if you have a marijuana-related offense, too bad. Oh, I know. Look at that. Grumble, 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 grumble. Oh, grumble, 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 grumble. Oh, grumble, grumble, grumble. Wow. I know, buddy. I know. The grumbliest pug. Sorry about that, guys. You just got hit by a smooth criminal right there. My pug literally walks around me, looking up at me, being like, John, pay attention. John, pay attention. Anytime I get him up on my lap, he gives me sass for it. Gives me sassafras. So this sort of begs the question, as far as I'm concerned, why aren't these people just being pardoned? Like, why not us? It would have been a one-liner, right? It literally would have just been, all marijuana-related offenses are void. Straight up. Like, just all marijuana offenses are void. And people could have absolutely just, like, looked at their offense list and be like, oh, hey, warden man, I'm not guilty of any crime. I've been pardoned. Right? It would have been very easy. It would have been very slick. Yeah, that's such BS. Dope charges are so BS. The system's still against marijuana. Yeah, now they're just passive aggressive. Exactly. Well, they don't want to release their free slaves, right? Like the private system of the private prison system makes money having prisoners in it, right? So you can't just let people go. And so it's an absurdism though. Like marijuana, like there are marijuana stores. If I walk down the beach now, there's 6, no less than 6 marijuana dispensaries that have cropped up over this last year, right? 6. You walk down, and there are people in jail for it still. Like, can you imagine being a person who was the last person who went to jail from a marijuana-related offense, right? They're still in jail. Like, it's just despicable. But as we're learning more and more about these liberals, right, they are just despicable. They're genuinely not interested in actually doing anything. And I mean, for goodness sakes, all eyes on Wet'suwet'en, protect the Wet'suwet'en, right? If you're unfamiliar with the story that's going on, the Canadian government has been invading Wet'suwet'en land for the last several years now, attempting to log and carve up and mine and do all this stuff, that neo-imperialists do. Here's the trouble, of course. Wet'suwet'en land is not Canadian land. It never was. It never has been. There's been no point in the history of Canada where this land has ever been given to Canadians for anything. The First Nations people who are on that land are not on a reserve, right? There's no treaty. It's their land. It's always been their land. And this idea, like literally the opening line, the ongoing struggle over control of Wet'suwet'en territory is heating up as the pristine headwaters of the river, Wet'en-Kwa, are imminent threat from CGL drill rigs. The hereditary chiefs are asserting control over their territory and are again calling for actions to stop the pipeline. 1 second, guys. Sorry. Hey there, Base. How you doing? Milo, buddy. You've got peanut butter. You've got everything you need. What are you whining about, man? Look at this. What's all this? Sorry, guys. My pug is steadily losing his sight and losing his senses more and more. So he loses stuff really easily now, including me. If we go outside and I dart around a corner or something, I have had him actually come around the corner and look past me, and he can't find me. And then he goes and tries to find me, and I've watched him not be able to find me. So poor guy's losing his sight for sure and his senses. But so when he's got peanut butter right in front of his face and he doesn't know it's there, I got to be like, look, bud, look. And he puts it together. Anyway, thanks for your patience, everybody, and good to see you, Base. Good to see you. So in 1997, the Supreme Court of so-called Canada agreed that the Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs alone have sovereignty over these lands. So not only has the territory always been, Major, I'm always glad when you show up, bud. You're never late. A wizard arrives precisely when he means to. He's nine, so he's on the other end of it, right? He's, what is that in dog years? That's 63, right? So, he's getting there. And pugs, the average lifespan for pugs is only 12 in the first place, right? So he's on the other end of it for sure. And he's doing pretty good in terms of, his joints and his health and all that kind of stuff, but he's definitely losing his sight. But, okay, so what this means is that in 1997... the Supreme Court of Canada itself just admitted, just straight out stated, the hereditary chiefs are the only people who have sovereignty over this land. This is their land, right? Meanwhile, the federal and provincial governments, provincial courts, RCMP, and CGL have all acted as if the constitutional question doesn't exist, continuing the settler colonial policies Canada is built on. Very straightforwardly, they're walking into their territory and just mining it, right? And strip mining it in some cases. This is outright theft of resources. It's destruction of property. It's completely an invasion, which is exactly how it should be described, right? If the Americans crossed the Canadian border and started clear-cutting territory and drilling it, right? We would say something about it. We would be like, excuse me, right? But, if we do it to First Nations people, it's not newsworthy, right? That's why you've got to find these articles in something like socialist.ca. You can't find an article like this published in the Globe and Mail or the Toronto Star or the God help you, the Sun or the National Post or anything like that, right? They're just not talking about this invasion of First Nations territory that is happening right now. And we're all just supposed to pretend the Liberals, they actually care about us, even though they're literally at war. It's a war. And I don't know how it could be described any other way. You're going in and stealing people's resources. They're telling you to stop. And when you tell them to stop, you take police forces and arrest them. When Frida Hussan from Unistoetan camp called for shutdown Canada, Indigenous people ran to the front lines on rail, road, and port blockades all across the country. and were joined by unprecedented number of settler allies. This includes ILWU 502 workers at Delta Port treating a road blockade as a picket line. At the height of the actions, the business world was reeling from 425 millions of goods being stranded daily and mass disruption of trade routes. Like this kind of action right here, what they're talking about, right? This is the only thing the capitalist death cult will pay attention to. It's literally the only thing they'll pay attention to. When you blockade them and surround the halls of power, the federal government was forced to the table. So that forces the federal government to the table against the First Nations people it's invading. With the hereditary chiefs, and the blockades came down. Before new actions could be called, the COVID-19 pandemic shut down Canada again. So, like, what's the most telling to me is that we are not hearing news about this in any significant way. Like, to me, this is the reason why our corporate media and our state-run media has lost its credibility, right? That they are allied to the neoliberal death cult very clearly, like very straightforwardly, and the fact that they're not, like, this should be front page news every day, right? There should be some perspective or something. There should be a columnist in the Globe and Mail talking about this at least every week, right? In like the Saturday or Sunday paper, there should be a columnist whose entire job is to focus on this event, because it's a major war that is happening within the borders of Canada as we invade a First Nations people, right? And like, we just don't talk about it. We don't tell people about it. We don't inform them whatsoever about it. And what does that do? That leaves the gate open for me. Leaves the gate open for me. Every little scrap of information and everything I find out about this, I try to tell people all about it. And an article like this is actually really good as a kind of comprehensive piece. But like, why are we not actually engaging in a conversation as a nation about this issue? I mean, besides what's obviously the case, our owners don't want us to. Yet the mainstream media is the fourth branch of the oligarchy. Exactly. Well, they own it all, right? They own it all. And the only part of it they don't directly own, which is like the CBC, the State Department, they still own through government apparatus, right? The liberals still come out and still release like CIA propaganda, like literal just like CIA stenography. My father, actually, there's an article, do I still have that article open? I don't think I do. I think I closed it. But they came out, the CBC came out with an article that was talking about the forced Uyghur labor in China. And my father, actually, I was talking to him that very night, and my father brought that forward to me. He said, something I read that was very troubling, John, and he told me all about it. And while he was telling me all about it, I was kind of smiling a little bit because I know it's all fucking CIA bullshit, right? And I had the pleasure and the privilege to explain the situation to my father, as I've explained it to you many times, and have him be quite receptive to it, because I think the story really troubled him. It really troubles him to think about, like, oh, there's a nation over here, and they're doing a genocide, and oh my God, like, what kind of world do we live in? And the CBC is talking about it, and so on and so forth. But not everybody's son is me, right? Like, not everybody's son is me. And so I picture good people like my father, right, who read these articles coming out of the CBC, which, you know, they generally trust, talking about a Uyghur genocide in China and actually being like, oh my goodness about it, and being quite concerned, like in real and serious ways, not realizing that they're being completely manipulated. And so I talked to my father about that for about a half hour, and then I said, so Dad, I gave you the full story because you're my dad and I love you. But just so you know, what I say to most people is, oh yeah, the CIA told me about that, so it's got to be true. They'll find those WMDs, guys. Those WMDs, they're showing up anytime. Anytime now, they're going to release an article being like, good news, everyone! We found those WMDs in Iraq that we were all talking about. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. I was shocked to see the CBC had done that in the first place, but it just tightens up what I've always known about these liberals, right? That they're basically just stenographers for the, like, that's the reason why they've had 5 foreign affairs ministers in the last 6 years. Because the foreign affairs ministry is pointless in Canada. There's like literally no you're not actually doing a job. You're not actually a diplomat. You're not actually connecting with anybody. Nobody's actually talking to you because Canada just does what the State Department and the CIA tell them to do. That's it. So you don't need someone in that position, like literally like read an email and send the email to the person it needs to go to. That's the job of the foreign affairs minister here in Canada. We don't really have our own independent foreign ministry. Like, we're not really interested in that here in Canada. So it's and the same is happening to CBC. Like, even though the CBC occasionally does come out with good stuff, things slip through the cracks. It still is just a branch of the State Department of the state, which is currently owned by the Liberal Party, which is completely under control by the neoliberal death cult. So it's troublesome times. Troublesome times. Let's see what else I got here. I'm going to move that over there. Yeah, Canada is underestimating carbon emissions from forestry sector, environmental groups allege. Now, an interesting piece of news that's happening right now is that in the cabinet shakeup, the Trudeau Liberals actually put in their Minister of Environmentalism is actually someone who has some credibility. And this is a very interesting thing that has happened. I've lost the article, but that's fine. So the new Minister of Environment is like a former Greenpeace fellow, a fellow who's actually been arrested for his work with Greenpeace and his blockading and environmental protesting. And this has led a lot of people to think these liberals are actually going to start doing something. These liberals are actually going to start toughening up their policies. They're actually going to start doing all this kind of stuff. And I am here to assure you that this is just gamesmanship, right? It's more of this theatrical, let's impress them with what we're willing to pretend to do. And things like this. Canada is underestimating carbon emissions from the forestry sector, environmental groups allege. New report argues official accounting exploits loopholes in system for calculating emissions. Whoa, big surprise. We're being totally bullshit about how much carbon emissions we're emitting. Canada's the largest producer of pollution per capita in the G20, right? It's Canada. Congratulations, we did it. Which makes sense because we've got 75% of the mining companies existing here in Canada. We're also the number one when it comes to subsidizing oil and subsidizing the oil industry. And it's getting to the point now where our leaders are literally walking around just openly stating what is at issue. They're literally saying, sure, there's on the one side breathable air and living in a civilization that's actually capable of producing food and being rational and normal. But on the other side of it, there's billionaires, right? What they call the economy is what they call. And then they'll hold hostage the union jobs and the fossil fuel jobs and use those hostages that they've taken in order to force concessions from people who want breathable air and a livable society. Like this is, and they're doing it openly now, right? They're and because they're so detached from any kind of moral core or any kind of base understanding of what it is to know the difference between right and wrong, these are equivalents to them, right? But billionaires need lots of money that they can offshore, which is what the economy is here in Canada. Those people would lose their jobs. And we certainly can't erect support systems or erect work train programs or move them into different parts of the economy because it's a free market economy. No. We have to pretend like the only thing that can happen is that these people would get abandoned. And we also have to pretend like we actually care about that while we simultaneously abandon millions of people by cutting the CRB, right? So they're literally holding in front of you this dynamic of, yes, you want to live in a society where you actually have oxygen and food, but billionaires need money. So we got to balance that. Like, we got to balance that. That's literally what the liberals are saying to you now. Chrystia Freeland said it. Justin Trudeau has said it, right? Just wait for the environmental minister to start saying it. Like, yeah, we've really got to care about these billionaires and the wealth of the billionaire class. That's really important, you guys. So I just don't like, so the liberals are starting to put together that people understand this about them. Like, why didn't the liberals get their majority, right? If you're in the Liberal Party, you've got to ask yourself that. Why didn't we get that majority, right? And they're starting to put together that, oh, people are starting to realize that we work exclusively for a billionaire class that's actively abandoning the society. They're completely unimpressed with our environmental performance. Like, people are scoffing at us about it. Like, we're not actually getting headway. Our own people are telling us we need to do a better job on all of this. So that just means we got to pretend more. We just got to pretend better, you know? And so they are. So now they're going to put like people who are actually like prominent environmentalists in the position and pretend like they'll listen to them, right? Like, and that's the concession. Like in America, how AOC and Bernie Sanders get to actually talk about these issues, the concession is that they're permitted to talk. That's the concession, right? So here in Canada, the concession is that we'll put serious people in positions of power so that we'll ignore them. Like, that's the concession. We have to surround the halls of power, right? Like, maybe this person who's in this position of power could actually get something done if there was 1 million people surrounding the parliament, right? Maybe. But I'll be surprised. I'll be surprised. First of all, I'll be surprised if Canadians actually do that, because we're a very gullible, apathetic people. And then I'll also be surprised if there's any concession whatsoever, even if that occurs. I heard someone say Saddam was a one-man weapon of mass destruction. Sounds like an action movie tagline. Yeah, I know, right? Like, and this is like the brain rot that exists in our civilization, right? Like, oh, we didn't find any weapons of mass destruction, but Saddam, he was a one-man weapon of mass destruction, so it was all worth it. The whole thing was completely worth it just to get rid of that one guy that one time. Yep. Like, or an adult film star nickname. Weapons of mass destruction. Yeah, I see what you're saying, bud. I see what you're saying. So we are entering a new, like, the liberals are attempting to shift the narrative, and they are attempting to actually make it appear as though they want to do something. My goal is to not have us fall into this gullible narrative once again that they actually are. Because I don't believe them for a minute. Like, I don't believe them for a minute. Like, when they put the carbon tax up, I think that put a lot of people to sleep, putting up the carbon tax. But the carbon tax was a fossil fuel industry initiative, right? That's what the fossil fuel wanted, what the industry wanted. Like, I mean, we should be nationalizing this place. Hey, Inquiring Mind, how you doing, bud? The NDP have a huge opportunity to become the party for the many disfranchised Canadians right now. The fact that they aren't doing anything is a big bummer. I mean, I have only found one statement from Jugmeat, and he has said, hey, maybe don't cut those things, right? Maybe, there it is. Jugmeat Singh calls on Trudeau to reverse cuts to help for people. So this is all that's happened, right? This is all that's happened. Families across the country, particularly in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and the Northwest Territories, are struggling right now. The pandemic isn't over. Just because there are no longer lockdowns across the country doesn't mean everything is back to normal. There are so many people who are still unable to return to work or provide for their families because of the pandemic, said Singh. Justin Trudeau said he would have Canadians back for as long as it took, but he only gave 48 hours notice before slashing the help they depend on. They deserve so much better than that. Singh noted that at least 900,000 people discovered last week their benefits would be eliminated, replaced with a patchwork solution. Yeah. So they know, will this manifest in them withholding votes? Will this manifest in them calling for a vote of no confidence against this government? Which I'm of the opinion that we should have a vote of no confidence against this government, right? The Liberals are incompetent. At best, they're incompetent. Like, the cutting of the CRB alone is a degree of incompetence that cannot be overstated. Like, worse than Doug Ford, like worse than worse than Kenny, worse than any of this. You're literally going to spike homelessness. Like hundreds of thousands of Canadians are going to be plunged into desperation. You could do less damage with an invading army. Like, and the Singh government, like, Jagmeet Singh is going to prop this government up. Why? For what? To what end? For what purpose? Right? And so what? So that they can walk around pretending like they give a shit about these issues, like they give a shit about Canadians, like they give a shit about any of this kind of stuff. They should call a vote of no confidence and overturn the Liberals, because the Liberals suck. They're like overtly terrible. And they obviously work for the capitalist death cult. They're obviously disinterested in working for us. He won't do that, of course. Like, Jagmeet Singh's not going to do that. And he's not going to do that for a very clear reason. Well, two very clear reasons. One, he's in the perfect position to take a beautiful bribe right now, right? Like, they can buy him. I think they already have, honestly. But then two, if you actually believe that he hasn't been bribed, which I don't know how you can maintain that position, but let's pretend like he hasn't been. Well, it's still kind of sticky, right? It's not a shoo-in, right? If they call the vote of no confidence, people can turn on the NDP and go Liberal. They can do that, right? So better to just get the little piecemeal scrap reformism you can, right? Which is it has become like the orange Liberal position, or what they call the NDP position, and move forward over the next 3 years, propping up this failed Liberal government while they actively abandon people, simultaneously saying the Liberals shouldn't abandon people. Well, maybe do something about it. Like, maybe actually be a serious political party instead of just another wing of the neoliberal death cult. Maybe. The NDP should pledge to not support the Liberals if they really want to make a meaningful statement against the benefits cut. Yeah, I mean, he's signaled at that kind of stuff, but the CRB stuff is really showing that he doesn't give a shit. Like, it's just more wind. It's just another airbag, right? It's just this guy's a brown dude with a big beard and a turban. That's it. It's all performative. It's all just illusionary, right? He's not actually genuine in any of this. If he was genuine, he would be calling for a vote of no confidence. Straight up. Like, I don't have any confidence in these fucking Liberals. The almost 1 million people who are going to be abandoned by these CRB cuts obviously don't have confidence in these Liberals. Like, who's walking around being like, yeah, the Liberals are doing a great job? Like, who are these people? The Kens and the Karens. That's who. The past election will probably be my last year voting NDP. Yeah, I think so too. Like, I think so too, for me. I've been really disappointed with the NDP, honestly. I think I'm straight up just going to go communist from now on. Just forget it. I'm not interested in these political parties. I'll put it this way. I am exactly as interested in these political parties as they are in me, which is not at all. Right? They don't give a fuck about me. They don't give a fuck about any of us. They care about creating this false dynamic of like, oh, guys, you got to understand it's a really tough choice. We could have a beautiful society full of leisure time and joy and compassion and beauty, breathable air, lots of food for everyone, everybody contributing to the maintenance of a stable society. But billionaires, man... those billionaires are really billionaires, and we got to make sure that the billionaires are there. And as long as they keep pretending like this dynamic has any legitimacy whatsoever, you can't support them, right? And that goes for the NDP too, as far as I'm concerned. Like, this dynamic has no legitimacy. Obviously pick stable society that actually works, right? And when they walk around talking about how we need to be concerned about the economy, what they're concerned about is Galen Weston Jr. or David Thompson's wealth. That's what they're interested in. They're not interested at all in helping anybody. Like, the economy, what's the economy? People are the economy. People are the economy. If they actually cared about the economy, they'd be caring about people. But they don't care about the economy. They use the economy as a slogan in order to defend the billionaire class. That's what they do. So until I start seeing the NDP actually doing something serious, actually like taking a stand, actually saying out loud, yeah, we're not going to support a government that's actively abandoning its own citizens, both to climate change apocalypse, but also to poverty. Like, we're absolutely not going to support this government. And if they don't, and if they prop this government up, if they prop these liberals up without getting major concessions, without getting a return to some kind of basic income style support system, I don't see any reason to support them whatsoever. Like 0% support. Like, from now into forever, perpetuity. They might as well eliminate the NDP as a party, as far as I'm concerned. Like, what's the point of having this party? What's the point of having, like, a quasi-leftist, somewhat, yeah, I guess maybe socialism party if they don't actually even give a shit about those values at all, right? Like, I don't want to vote NDP, but there's no one else to vote for in my district. Write in communist. Write it in. Or run. Become the communist. Actions speak louder than words. Inaction speaks louder than action. Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. It's just getting absolutely, like, it's getting just childishly obvious. Like, all they have to do is pretend. That's it. Like, all they have to, and it's nobody's fault but our own, right? Like, it's nobody's fault but our own. We could easily send these guys packing. We could easily send all these guys packing, right? Literally vote for anyone. Like, literally just vote for whoever. Vote for anything. Like, oh, hey, here's a name on the ballot that I don't know, check mark, right? These guys need, and that's exactly what's happening with the PPC, by the way. Like, that's exactly what's happening with the PPC. There are people who are voting PPC because they're like, fuck all the rest of these guys. Fuck them, right? And that's what it's going to take for some of these guys to actually wake up and realize how badly they're fucking up, right? Like, and I think for sure that there are people in the Liberal Party who actually think they're doing a good job. They're literally, like, clueless. They literally do not understand what is happening in the world around them. They're so detached and so outside of the genuine lived reality of the majority of the populace that they actually think they're doing a good job. And I think that there were liberals in this last election who were shocked that they didn't get the majority. I think that there are liberals who are like, what? How didn't we get the majority? Right? And, like, they don't understand that the populace generally hates them. And really the only reason, like, huge sections of the populace are still voting liberal as well, if you don't vote liberal, then the conservative gets in, right? Like, and this is supposed to be a functioning system. Like, this is the system that's working for us. Unbelievable. Like, I can't imagine why this thing is fucking collapsing to the earth. It doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, whiny buddy. Okay, whiny buddy. You want some peanut butter? Here you go, whiny buddy. Whiny little guy. Okay. I'm going to read this Jacobin article. It's so funny, man. Like, he doesn't get that I'm talking to somebody else. So the whole time he thinks I'm talking to him, right? Like, before I start recording and, like, doing the stream, he literally is, like, lying down, just kind of happily snoozing. And then the second I start talking, he's like, oh, well, John's having a big conversation with me. I'm such an important little pug. Okay. This is going to be a really fun article to read. This is going to be a real fun article to read out loud. I think this is probably going to be the clip. This is going to be a really fun one, I can tell. So this comes out of the Jacobin, right? Meet the Gaggle of Ghoulish Capitalists Haunting Canada by Dan Dara. Just in time for Halloween, Jacobin casts light on a few terrifying monsters stalking the lives and nightmares of Canadians everywhere. Obligatory picture of Justin Trudeau in his truest form. From my laboratory in the castle east to the master bedroom where the vampires feast, the ghouls all came from their humble abodes to get a jolt from my electrodes. Bobby Pickett, Monster Mash. Yeah, this is going to be great. Be on alert. Terrifying ghouls will stalk Canada's streets this Halloween, led by an insatiable hunger for profit, prestige, or privatization. These beasts skulk around country clubs and think tanks, clad in what the hell? Ermenegildo, Zegna Power. Oh, there's a word I've never heard in my life. Ermenegildo, blah, 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 blah. Zegna Power Suits, or party casual couture. They seek new blood. Their avarice knows no limits. Their venality no shame. You think the pandemic has stopped them? If anything, it has made them bolder. These are their stories. Galen Weston Jr. Born with a silver spoon in his mouth and a plaid vest on his chest, Galen Weston Jr. attended private school, Harvard University, then Columbia University, before taking the reins of Loblaw Companies Limited, his dad's grocery and retailing giant, in 2006. His professional life has been marked by a series of disasters. He presided over the company in 2013 during the Rana Plaza factory tragedy in Bangladesh, where Loblaw's clothing brand Joe Fresh manufactured clothes. Lest you fret that this calamity affected our villain adversely, take heart. Not only did the Bangladeshi victims and families of victims who tried to sue Loblaw in Canada have their suit thrown out, they were forced to pay Loblaw $1 million for incurred legal fees. In 2017, Galen admitted to the company's infamous price-fixing scandal. Loblaw's, in cahoots with the rest of Canada's grocery oligarchy members, jacked up prices on certain bread products for 14 years. Their penance for ripping regular people off for nearly a decade and a half? $25 gift card for customers. Gift cards that were only given to the customers who took the time to declare that they bought overpriced bread. Weston Jr. also stood front and center in the fight against Ontario's planned minimum wage hike to $15 an hour, lobbying the government in 2017 and regularly crying poor in the press. Loblaw also appeared that year in the Panama Papers, having offshored their profits in Barbados. Like other chains during the pandemic, in the summer of 2020, Loblaw cut the temporary $2 an hour hero pay premium given to frontline workers only a few months earlier. Weston Jr.'s reprehensibility tracks with a long history of greed and skullduggery in his family, enthusiastically busting unions, suppressing wages, evading taxes, and expanding their empire. Their current family net worth sits around $7 billion, a fortune that has enabled them to schmooze with royals and build palaces in Florida. In addition to his workaday malfeasance, Weston Jr.'s penchant for dressing stupidly confounds his enemies and dishonors sartorial decency. Think Dracula without the decorum or panache. Daniel Drimmer. If ever there was an avatar for Canada's punishing housing market, it's Daniel Drimmer, the CEO of Starlight Investments, Canada's biggest landlord. Drimmer manages assets of around $20 billion. The company owns countless rental units and properties in both Canada and the United States. Drimmer's first major foray into real estate investment began in 1994 with his company TransGlobe. Throughout the 2000s, TransGlobe developed a reputation as a notorious slumlord. Coast to coast, their tenants suffered from mold, infestation, unsafe infrastructure, leaks, heating and air issues, neglected repairs, and in one case, toxic levels of asbestos. Starlight's current activities include renovictions, when a landlord carries out an eviction of a building by pledging major renovations in the units, doubling rent prices for new tenants, and often attempting to charge above guideline rent increases for existing ones. The company aims to extract as much wealth from the poor as possible, a modern-day chupacabra waiting in the dark to feast on the renting class. Throughout the pandemic, Starlight properties were the sites of eviction fights and tenant organizing. The protests were in response to the company's refusal to negotiate rents during the early chaos caused by COVID-19, as well as the usual structural problems, infestations, and neglect of their rental units. Tenants organized rent strikes and other actions against the company, even paying a visit to Drimmer's Toronto mansion in Forest Hill. Since the 1990s, Drimmer has been instrumental in helming Canada's rentier economy and has built an empire, come hell or high, leaking water at the expense of everyone else. Mike Harris. David Cronenberg only wishes he could create a creature as odious as former Ontario Premier Mike Harris, the spaghetti brain behind the common sense revolution in the mid-1990s, arguing that government had become too bloated and people too content to live off the dole. Harris waged an unrelenting war on the poor. He strangled social programs and regulations and slashed taxes to create the best possible conditions for the business class. Stoking the ire of unions and workers, the CSR provoked major strikes, namely in the public sector, as well as the historic Days of Action. This resistance forced Harris to back off, or as one commentator put it, to blink, granting momentary respite from his Gorgon gaze. Many of his political decisions led directly to death and immiseration. He and his cabinet replaced welfare with workfare and destroyed social assistance, resulting in the high-profile death of Kimberly Rogers. After the deregulation and privatization of Ontario's water treatment, a fatal E. coli outbreak in Walkerton killed 7 people, a disaster for which Harris said he was accountable in the press, sounding a Jekyll note in his otherwise Hyde office term. Harris also set the trend for deregulating long-term care, a decision that, in combination with successive cuts from other governments, resulted in the quality of care rapidly deteriorating in seniors' homes. The consequence of these developments came to full fruition during the pandemic, with private sector homes suffering significantly worse COVID-19 outcomes than non-profit ones, both higher cases and deaths. But Harris didn't just help set the stage for the long-term care misery, he profited from it. As a part-time board member of LTC giant Chartwell Retirement Residences, a position he took only 2 years after leaving office, he earns a 6-figure salary and has millions in holdings. Whether enriching his buddies or demonizing welfare recipients, Harris spent 30 years of his life as the Ontario private sector's most useful stooge, a bloodthirsty jackal slaking his terrible thirst with human tears. Maxime Bernier. Before entering politics, People Party of Canada head honcho Maxime Bernier spent a few decades bean counting in finance and representing the needy as a lawyer at corporate law firm McCarthy Tetrault LLP. In 2006, he ran in the Quebec riding of Beauce, which his dad represented from 1984 to 1997, and joined the Conservative Party cabinet of Stephen Harper, where he achieved little more than a small amount of boring stuff. After a failed leadership bid for the Conservative Party of Canada in 2017, however, Bernier got to scheming on the pivot that would come to define his career. He began attacking the promotion of multiculturalism, tweeting angrily about a clip featuring Justin Trudeau's cult of diversity. He gleefully went to war with the idea of having people live among us who reject basic Western values, such as freedom, equality, tolerance, and openness. He officially left the CPC, citing intractable ideological differences, and formed the right populist PPC. His 2019 campaign focused on cutting immigration and curbing multiculturalism, libertarian economics, slashing taxes, and ignoring climate change. He lost, but returned in the 2021 election emboldened. Bernier and the PPC rose to prominence in opposition to lockdowns and vaccines, with Bernier getting arrested and fined for attending anti-vaccination protests. Though no PPC candidate, including Bernier himself, succeeded in winning a seat, the PPC won a not insignificant 800,000 votes, having captured a significant part of the aggrieved populace right vote. Transformed from yawn-inducing CPC lackey to PPC superstar, Bernier has situated himself at the center of a racist, libertarian ethno-nationalism now on a meteoric rise in Canada. His xenophobic braying is far more chilling than zombie hissing or werewolf howling. This, by no means exhaustive list of surreal, scaly characters should keep citizens on high alert this Halloween. Their craven, uninhibited desires, laid further bare by a destructive global virus, freely terrorize their country and communities. Masks of their faces may not hang on the walls of Party City, but make no mistake, these ghouls should be taken seriously. This is how all articles should be written. That's every article that has ever been written should be written like this. I loved that. What a great time. What a great time. Like, I do think that, like, I would have preferred something about David Thompson, right? Nobody knows David Thompson is the thing. And he is actually quite boring. Like, and his evil is more like, is more about the systemic stuff, whereas these guys are just outright ghouls, right? Like, they don't give a shit at all. I loved that comment, by the way, Major Hydraulic. Stephen Fry's evil twin. Yeah, dude. I totally see it. The second you said it, I was like, oh man, I should say that right now. But no, I wanna get all the way through. I wanna get through. Let's see what you guys are saying. Yeah, the NDP are there for optics. It looks good for the Canadian political system to have a quasi-socialist party on the platform. Yeah, exactly. Well, and also, like, as the Conservative Liberal Alliance sort of coalesces and actually just reveals that it's the same party, right? It is actually reasonable to have another party to actually work against them. But the trouble is that it's not really, right? That Jugmeat's just going to prop them up, right? That's what's going to happen. I have a feeling that the ONDP might fail next June, returning back to their third place. Yeah, I'm worried about that too, Vince. Good to see you, by the way, bud. If the NDP want to win, they need to be openly socialist, not orange liberals. Yeah, I know. This has been one of the worst outcomes of the period of neoliberalism. That it's bad to say you're a socialist. Like, it's suddenly considered like, oh, you can't be elected if you're a socialist. It's like total bullshit. It's complete and total bullshit. And like, it annoys me that the NDP, as they get more popular and as they grow in prominence, they steadily move to what they call the center, which is the right, and away from the policies and ideas that made them popular in the first place. Like, it's very similar to how, like, when somebody makes a movie based on a book, they change the plot. And it's like, but the book is popular enough that you're making a movie out of it. Use the plot. Like, why are you changing it? Like, what's the justification here? It has very similar sort of nonsensical rationale, right? Like, oh, as we get more popular because of our leftist ideas and our socialism that we keep talking about, we need to decline that less because that will make us less popular. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's incoherent. And in the end, it's the reason why the NDP keep choking, right? They keep grabbing up for power, and then they're like, oh, the thing that actually made us popular, we're going to do less of. And it's like, why? Like, it's the thing that's making you popular. Anyway. The Ontario Communist Party platform is really good, yeah. Mike Harris and Doug Ford should be in prison right now. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that completely, dude. Like, Mike Harris is a fucking ghoul. Like, and Doug Ford's no different. Like, and Doug Ford is outright using Mike Harris's playbook. Like, every step of the way. It's anything that Mike Harris did, Ford does. And he doesn't even think about it. Classified documents being left at his biker-affiliated stripper girlfriend's house was awfully fun. Yeah, that just shows you how much of a boob he is, right? Hey, Ruth, how you doing? Didn't see any commercials about that little misstep in Bernier's pass. Such a fun fact during the election. Yeah. I think Harris has done more damage to Ontario than Bernier did, for sure. That's for sure the truth. I wonder what he did as Minister of State, Small Business and Tourism and Agriculture, but I still think Harris... Yeah, because Harris was just stripping away all support systems. Like, he's just a dead-eyed psychopath, right? Like, he wants money for himself, and he doesn't care how he's going to get it. And so he strips money away from functioning systems while demonizing the people that require them, and takes that money and funnels it into his own pockets. Like, it's very obviously who Mike Harris and all conservatives are. All conservatives. Like, sorry, like, I know that puts me in a, like, oh, not all, but, like, fuck you. If you're voting conservative, you're voting for death cultists who want to destroy the civil society. Full stop. No exceptions. Yeah, Tom Mulcair was actually, like, a total whiff for the NDP. Like, his campaign was terrible. His march to the center was completely, like, the reason the NDP were defeated by Justin Trudeau was because of Tom Mulcair. 100%. That, like, if Tom Mulcair had have just plunged towards the socialist angle, had have galvanized the anger of the populace, right, he would have been the prime minister. I've seen Tom Mulcair in the House. Like, I know how he acts, right? And then he comes out with this stupid Raffy grin, being like, we're just a normal centrist party. Yeah. Oh, so you're just the thing that nobody wants. Oh, okay. Like, it's just the NDP have it in their heads that the thing that's making us popular we can't talk about. How do you grow a leftist base when most of the current voting base is entrenched in their boomer politics? But that's not true. Like, that's the thing, tomfoolery. Like, all the polls are showing that if you're under the age of 40, right? Like, if you're under the age of 40, you're a leftist. Like sure, there's like 15% conservative because they inherited a lot of money from their daddy and they listen to their daddy. But, like, huge segments of the populace are leftists. Huge segments of the populace are like, socialism. Yeah, socialism, please. Socialism, right? Huge sections. So this idea that, like, that voting base is not there is nonsense. It's total fucking nonsense to me. And what the big problem that leftists have, especially in Canada, is that they're cowards. That's the big problem. Like, none of these guys are walking around talking like I do, right? None of these guys are walking around being like, yeah, this is a neoliberal death cult. It's obviously fraudulent. It's been structured to destroy us and we should dismantle it, right? Like, and if you do see a guy, because it does happen, right, where they end up on the stage and they're like part of the Communist Party or whatever, they seem weak. They just seem like some, like, and if we don't go in there, and if we continue doing what we're doing, then everything's going to go badly. And so, like, what Canadian politics needs right now is somebody who's going to put a boot in these guys' ass. And the Liberals are aware that this is going to happen, right? To me, it's an inevitability at this point. It is an inevitability that someone is going to show up in politics and be like, the Liberals are frauds, the Conservatives are psychopaths, the NDP are weak, vote for me. And people are going to go, yeah, okay. And you know where those guys are going to show up? Those guys are going to show up in the PPC. Like, that's what's going to happen, right? And because leftists get in their own way, they get up their own asses, right? And they do everything they can to bite at each other and dismantle the thing internally, while the far right is just going to be like, well, I don't necessarily agree with you, but let's have a beer, blah, 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 and they'll both get drunk and play darts or whatever, right? Like, that, because that's what happens. And hopefully we can actually form something on the left to actually prevent this disaster from unfolding in front of us, but we'll fucking see. Hey, Victini, how you doing, bud? Greetings, brethren. I love it. Mulcair and the person before Leighton did the same. Either a new party needed to be formed or somehow motivate people to vote communist. Yeah. I don't know which is easier to do. Yeah, that's the thing. What is easier to do, right? Mike Harris, the man who wrote his premiership on the promise of getting rid of photo radar. Right? Like, we're so fucking stupid. Like literally, like what were the promises that Ford said? Oh, we're going to lower your hydro bill, buck a beer. Like, that's it. That was his whole thing, right? And like, people are willing to throw their chips in with a dude who is going to become the premier of your province, right? Which might as well he might as well be a king, right? And suddenly you're just going to give him all the power because cheaper hydro, buck a beer. Like, Jesus Christ. Red libs, hey now, some of us are, yeah. This is the winter for organizing, yeah. The problem is the communist brand is a bad word in the West because, you know, Rambo and shit, exactly. No, exactly, dude, exactly. Like, people, like, I just think it's so funny that the people that completely distrust their media entirely are just like, but when it comes to communism, they're absolutely correct. They're absolutely correct. All right, guys, I'm going to play a couple of songs. I'm going to start with my song, and then I'm going to play Drew's song. One of my Patreons has just wrote a song and sent me the lyrics and say, hey, what do you think? And sent me a recording of him singing it, and I thought, this is great, dude. This is great. It has a real Blink-182 sort of thing. So, you know what? I'm actually going to start with that one because I'm really talking it up, and I'm really excited about this. So, he didn't send me any chording or anything, so technically the composition is mine. But honestly, I really love this song. So I'm going to... Oh, it goes capo 3. But I really want it to be made clear. And it matters to me a lot that this is made clear. Not my song. Not my song. This is Drew's song. Okay, let's go. Before the sun finds out I'm already awake, not ready to face it, racing out at the sound of the bell, can't catch a break when I'm barely breathing and I can't bear to breathe in a wage slave society. I don't wanna be part of a death cult killing us all, and I can't find my way. It's a travesty for the human race, smart in agony. I just wanna go back to the days where we hid from watchful eyes beneath the falling leaves, waiting for the sun to rise. Now we're waiting to die in a wage slave society. I don't wanna be part of a death cult killing us all, and I can't find my way. It's a travesty for the human race, smart in agony, and I can't find my way. You stole my life before I was born, and the human race, you got it good. Take it and run. Take it and run. Yeah, you got it good. Take it along with you, fuck you. I still got to work on the composition of it. I love these lyrics. It's so, there's something so like punching out of it. Really dig it. Really dig it. What do you guys like? Victini, don't blame boomers. It's apparent to them too. They're just too liberal to risk their socioeconomic status to upset the cart. I think that's probably part of it. Like, they're still the beneficiaries, right? They still got the houses. They're actually retiring, right? Like, they don't give a fuck. Like, go struggle, children. Yes, cowards exactly like me, uncommitted anarchist. Yeah. Okay, so that one was Drew's. This one's mine. I made this 2 days ago, so forgive me about the roughness of this. Straight with your shoulders back, tighten that heart, give it no slack, find another way to fill that void, fill that order, do as you're told, no one cares, you're getting old, smiles just make you annoyed. Get lost in the illusion. Pornography and gin. Go save another princess. It won't save you from your sin. Apes go on the attack. Dig too deep, can't take it back. Broken ground will never let it go. Sold out for your even born. Try to eat, but it's all gone. Why sell yourself to put on a show? Pornography and gin. Go save another princess. It won't save you from your sins. Stupid monkey on a burning rock. Reach the stars, grabbing his cock. Pump and dump your soul to get to Mars. Dreams don't mean a single thing. Don't worry what tomorrow brings. Surely it will only leave a scar. Pornography and gin. Go save another princess. It won't save you from your sins. your sin. Where won't save you from your sin. Yeah, I like that one. I gotta work on it a little bit more. I think I gotta make it more evil. I think it's gotta be more sinister. I think it's a little too light. I gotta go deeper. I think. We'll see. Well, hope you guys like that musical interlude. A guest piece as well as a new one from me. Anybody got anybody want to hear one? Anybody got a request? Any of the music that I play? Yeah, it does. You know what? That's quite a compliment, Nova Scotia. I'll definitely take that. Anybody comes up to me and says, "Hey, that tune reminds me of Leonard Cohen." Well, that's probably the highest compliment that you can pay me, I think. Record that? Wow. Well, Major Hydraulic, thank you so much. If you like it, bud, then I consider it a success. For sure. Your instincts have always been dead on the money, bud. So I'll definitely take that. Anybody with a request? Anybody? Yeah, it is a bit of a journey, isn't it? It is a bit of a journey. And I like it better than I'm Sad. Because I'm Sad, I feel like has it's got a punch on it, but it doesn't go on that it doesn't I feel like that piece gets you in the spirit, that there's something like it takes you on like a spiritual journey somehow. You know, whereas I'm Sad doesn't take you on the same spiritual journey. It still has a good punch on it, but like it doesn't take you on that same journey, I feel. Anyway. I'm getting softer on this song because... Any songs about hemp yet? Not yet, bud. Not yet. You know what? I wanna play this one. I'm gonna play this one. I think it's too high for me. I think that's the thing that's happening with this song. And I've got to get to a point where I admit that it's too high. Like that last piece I played is like the lowest in my register I've ever played. But... and this one's like a pretty much the highest I can get without getting into kind of falsetto territory. But I still like it. So I don't know. I'm going to play it. This is I Wish My Ma Was Here. Sorry, guys. Whatever. These times they are uncertain, of that there is no doubt, and nobody can tell me what it's all about. The heartbreak and the loneliness, the chaos and the fear will make even the strongest cry, I wish my ma was here. A young man on a battlefield fights for a rich man's gold. The bullet cracks into his spine, he knows he won't grow old. And as the tears come streaming down, at once his mind goes clear. The war was fought for nothing, he cries, I wish my ma was here. Screwing it up. A lively story well in hand, a joke to soothe your soul. And when it came to arguing, she'd forgive and let it go. And when I cried, she held me, told me it's okay, my dear. And as we face these darkened days, I wish my ma was here. just as all the righteous do. We'll raise our voices to the sky. They cannot stop the truth. And as we tear their structures down, in victory we'll cheer. We made the world a better place, and I wish my mom was here. Yeah, we made the world a better place, and I wish my mom was here. I love it. I love it. Do you ever listen to Russian folk music? It had elements in that. Some Russians sing low like that. Yeah, for sure. Well, and folk music generally, right? Like I feel like folk music gets really taken by the falsetto guys. The falsetto guys get to be like, "Hello, darkness, my old friend," that kind of thing. But if you listen to like a really powerful, like a bass sing, like and bassists always get put into just like ba 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 ba. That's kind of what bassists get to do. So when you actually listen to like a bassist actually singing like a song that's built for a guy with a real low voice, it gets you on a different frequency. It gets you on a different frequency. All right, guys. I'm gonna. You know what? I am gonna play this one because I want to. This one I'm gonna be recording soon as well. I played this one recently for my father. And he said that what he loved about the song is that it captures a spirit of forgiveness. And that forgiveness is exactly what we need these days. That forgiveness is precisely what's necessary. And so I think this song is going to be successful just because it carries with it a spirit of forgiveness. I was just a little boy when my mom and dad divorced. Through my tantrums, cried my tears, I'd keep their vows by force. Now that I'm an older man, I see it had to be this way. My parents' love for me still grows each and every day. Time passed me by so swiftly, I could have been a better man. And every day I'm trying to do the best things that I can. And though they're not the people I expected they would be, I love them all the same. I just want them to be free. 10 years, me and my wife, we traveled round the globe. Binding vows and shared regrets, they filled our hearts with hope. Then one day she tells me that a man is not for her. Those 10 years are a memory now, but my love for her still stirs. And time passed me by so swiftly, I could have been a better man. And every day I'm trying to do the best things that I can. And though she's not the person I expected she would be, I love her all the same. I just want her to be free. My love had a little girl, a scrappy tomboy type. I watched her blossom like a flower, but she felt not quite right. And then one day she tells me she's a young man, not a girl. I picked her up and held her close and sent my son into the world. And time passed me by so swiftly, I could have been a better man. And every day I'm trying to do the best things that I can. And though he's not the person that I expected he would be, I love him all the same. I just want him to be free. And though they're not the people that I expected they would be, I love them all the same. I just want them to be free. I want Willie Nelson to play this song. I want Willie Nelson to play this song. I want Willie Nelson to go to the Grand Ole Opry and play this song recorded live in front of the entire nation, because I think if Willie Nelson sang this song at the Grand Ole Opry in front of the people who pay attention and listen to Willie Nelson, that it could heal America. I genuinely believe it, that it could heal America. Because I think that if yeah, absolutely, it's totally Willie Nelson tune, dude. The same spirit that's fueling Willie Nelson fueled that song, for sure. And like, can you imagine what that would do to a person? I imagine like a person who is having trouble with their son or their daughter or their wife or some family member, and they're struggling through these issues and they're doing these kinds of things, and maybe they acted like an asshole, but they don't know how to find a way to admit that they acted like an asshole, or maybe they haven't quite realized even that they were acting like an asshole. And I just see Willie Nelson playing this tune and it just settling into them, right? And the spirit of forgiveness coming in and sending them down the path. It's exactly what we need right now. It's exactly what we need right now, is a song like that to come along and like and touch people and I think it will. I believe in that song. I believe in that song more than I believe in myself. What's a good way to deal with anxiety? Vince, you are asking the questions, my friend. So here, everything that follows is just my theory, okay? But step one, in my view, is acknowledging what anxiety is. Yeah, always. Of course you are, Vince. Of course you are, dude. Not only stressed, but desperate. You're asking a guy like me. That's how we know you're really desperate, Vince. You're asking guys like me. Okay. So my perspective of both depression and anxiety, because those two are cousins, right? Depression and anxiety are cousins, or siblings, if you like, that are sort of on the side of the same coin, two sides of the same coin, right? And they're part of who you are, right? That your body is trying to communicate ideas to you and communicate thoughts to you, but it doesn't like know how, right? It doesn't speak English. It can't just say to you, Vince, I've been noticing some problems that I feel you need to address, and I've drawn up a 10-point talking point for you. Please listen to my TED Talk, right? And that's not how it works, okay? Because inside of every person is a duality, right? Left side of the brain, right side of the brain, right? Half of you is a monkey. I call it the monkey because it is. It's evolved as a monkey has evolved. It cares about what is immediately around it, right? What do I need to do to immediately see to my instant survival? What can I pick up and eat? What will make my tummy full? What will make me go, right? Or what do I need to smash with my monkey fists, right? So there's the monkey. Most of us spend most of our time dealing with the monkey. And because our environment is so artificial, and because it's so fabricated and illusionary, we spend a good deal of our time just dealing with the illusionary aspect of being alive. These phones aren't really helping, honestly. The constant doing this, it's literally like for real. What I recommend everybody do is go on social media and start doing what you do on social media, and put a mirror somewhere in the room, right? So that you, as you're flipping, just sometime look in the mirror. And don't move too much when you do it. Just look in the mirror, right? And what you're going to see is a monkey holding a phone, right? And we spend most of our time dealing with the monkey. But there's a secondary half to your existence. There's another side of your brain. And that side of your brain I call the meta. Okay? So you've got the monkey and the meta. It's unfortunate that Facebook is changing its name to Meta because it's so fucking bullshit and creepy if you ask me. But the meta side of your brain is the intrinsic opposite of the monkey. It's not interested in what's directly in front of you in an immediate sense. It's actually an abstract overmind view. It takes the information that you get from the world at large, be it through news or stories or information you're hearing, and it creates a map, an abstract map of what's going on around you, right? But you're not interacting with this on the regular. I know, buddy. The meta is scary. I know, buddy. I know. It's because I'm doing this, and Milo's looking up being like, he's doing this. He's casting a spell? So anyway, because it exists in this upper stratosphere, right? In this area that you don't interact with on the regular, right? It can create information maps, and it can create ideas and thoughts that it then attempts to inform the monkey of. Okay? So there's a connecting information that is going on between the monkey and the meta. The thing is that we don't actually actively attempt to have that communication happen, right? How often do you actually pause and actually listen to the meta side of your voice, of yourself? How often do you actually genuinely just pause and allow this meta aspect of yourself to exist, right? And in fact, our society is actually built to fight against this meta side of yourself. The denigration of imagination, for example, the denigration of the arts, right? Well, how does such a voice that exists within you attempt to articulate itself even to you? And then how do you turn around and articulate that side of yourself to the world? Through the arts. Through the arts. And so how do we find new ways to connect and communicate with it? Through imagination, right? And so sometimes this thing, the meta, right, is like, you gotta listen, son. Like, you got to listen. You have to. And so what does it do, right? Like, what would you do if you were put in a room and everyone else in the house refused to listen to you, even though you had absolutely crucial information to let the people in the house know about that would base that they could base their survival on? You'd fucking kick that door in, wouldn't you? You'd fucking kick the door in, right? You'd pound on the door, you'd pound on the floor, right? You'd try to punch holes through the wall, like all of that kind of stuff. Well, what do you think anxiety is? Right? Anxiety and depression, right? These are tactics that the meta is using in order to get your attention, to get you to slow down, to stop what you're doing, and concentrate on what it wants you to concentrate on, and perhaps articulate back to it. And one of the things that I find very useful when it comes to talking to when it comes to the monkey and the meta is to actually talk back to the meta, right? It's you. Like, talk back to it, right? And be like, yeah, I get it, okay? Like, anxiety, like, and once you understand what the anxiety and the depression are trying to get you to understand, you can be like, okay, I got it. Like, I got it. Understood. Check mark, right? And I'm going to move forward in this way. Can you fucking calm down a little bit? And oftentimes I find that works, right? Like, once both sides of the brain get on the same page and everybody understands what's happening, it actually helps. It helps me, right? Anytime I get into like a depressed phase and all this kind of stuff, and I get into that depression kind of mode, and my meta side of myself is being like, hey, climate change exists and all this kind of stuff, and like I can just be like, yeah, but I got it. Like, I know, like, I know, right? I know. And then you can get into really weird and interesting conversations with yourself that are unique and specific and intrinsic to your existence. So I can't take you any farther than that. But anxiety is you attempting to warn you that there are large meta concerns that you should probably do something about. And until the meta side of your brain is satisfied that you, A, understand that, and B, are actually attempting to do something about it, it won't let up. That's become my understanding of depression and anxiety. That until your meta side is satisfied that you are listening to it and doing something about its concerns, it's not going to let up. And especially when it comes to depression, that depression can outright, like, take you to the ground and just be like, you are on the ground now, son. You are not getting up. And like, that's where one of my prevalent theories about we should just stop comes from, because most people stopping would be like the best possible thing for us. Anyway, Vince, that was like a long form way of me saying you're having a conversation with yourself. Honor it, believe it, and whatever it kind of wants you, whatever it's propelling you towards to do, even if it's just like draw a picture or something, do it. That's what I recommend. Oh, I know, Milo. I know. My little guy's got a big meta anxiety as well, but his anxiety is like, I don't have any peanut butter. Where's my peanut butter? Milo doesn't have any peanut butter. Milo, you actually don't have any peanut butter. Sorry, buddy. This is it. That's it for you. No more peanut butter. No more peanut butter. Depression is a stern taskmaster, Alani. Absolutely. Believe me, I know well. And sometimes it hits people harder than others. And I got to be straight with you. Sometimes I do believe that depression is trying to tell the people who it's inflicting that the best thing for you to do right now is absolutely nothing. It literally is taking you and shoving you into a mattress and saying, just stay here. And that's why I don't denigrate people who have like depression, anxiety, or anything like this, because there's some larger meta thing going on that we as a species, or as a civilization rather, don't have a grasp on. And we don't really honor or respect. Okay, you guys have moved on, so let's move on. Jugmeat and NDP has a huge opportunity when Parliament resumes to push the Liberals for a GLI instead of a breadcrumb extension of a CRB. Threatening the Liberals is key. GLI was in Jugmeat's platform. I'll be very surprised. If he does it, I will change my tune on support for the NDP. I don't think he will. Like, I don't think he will. I don't believe that Jugmeat's support for a GLI is very sincere or serious. Right? Like when Tommy Douglas was walking around talking about a universal healthcare system, right? He was walking around talking about a universal healthcare system. That's what he was pushing. That's what he was running on. He was telling fun stories about cats and mice, right? He was telling like all of these, he was trying to find new and interesting ways to galvanize the populace into believing that we could have a universal healthcare system, right? He was constantly talking about it and constantly supporting it, and I don't see it coming from Jugmeat. I don't think he's particularly interested, honestly. I don't think he's fighting for it. What you're saying here would probably be the only thing that would get my support back to the NDP. But I just don't think he's got the cojones for it. Like, straight up. Like, I just don't think he's got the cojones for it. I think he'll just happily take whatever bribe he's given and he'll move forward. Like, that's what I think's going to happen with him. Yep, Jagmeet is content with his position right now. We won't see him push anything radical. Status quo careerist politician, yeah. Like, and now you're starting to get into a position where in order to get Jagmeet to actually do the thing that we're talking about, then we need to get into his party and actually start threatening him and his leadership position within the NDP in order to do that, and so on and so forth. And eventually there just comes a point where you're like, just vote communist. Like, don't bother getting into the NDP. Just fucking vote communist. Like, stop pretending like the NDP actually gives a shit about any of this kind of stuff. Because, like, what the NDP should be doing right now is they should be saying explicitly, we are going to call a vote of no confidence if you do not support a basic income. And it should be that straightforward. Like, really. Like, if I was Jagmeet Singh, I would straight out be saying it in the papers. I would be going to the Toronto Star, the Globe and Mail, the National Post, anybody who is going to publish me, and I'm a federal leader, so they're going to publish me, and I would be saying, if the Liberals do not put basic income legislation on the table for us to vote forward and put a basic income in place for Canadians, we are going to call a vote of no confidence. We refuse to support this party. Like, rubber or road time, man. Like, rubber or road time. Like, it's time to stop with the bullshit. It's time to stop with the bullshit. Like, do you support Canadian people or not? And the Liberals keep pretending like they do. They keep pretending, but these guys need to be ultimatumed. They've got to be ultimatumed. And if Jagmeet doesn't attempt to ultimatum these guys, then I don't see why we should continue supporting them. Like, what are they for? Like, looks to me like they're just an orange wing of the Liberal Party. That's what they look like to me. And, like, straight up, like, Jagmeet Singh needs to grow a pair. He actually needs to stand up and say to the Liberals, hey, we will call another election, and we will do it based on this premise that you are not supporting a basic income and you are abandoning Canadians. I actually think it would be a very astute position for him to take. Not that I think Jagmeet is particularly astute, honestly. Like, I think he's just, as what was said, he's just a status quo careerist politician, right? That if he could have made his way up the Liberal Party, he would have. So we'll see. We'll see. We need to threaten Jagmeet with a real workers' party. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Nationalize telecom, oil and gas, rent tied to income. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that we could do. There's all kinds of stuff that we could do. And, like, the fact that it's not being done is just an embarrassment. It's just an embarrassment. And yet, stop with the pilots. Yeah, right. Like, the pilots are so obviously just, like, kicking the can down the road, right? Like, we know it works. Let's let it work, right? Like, it's getting to be kind of embarrassing in my perspective. Investigation. This comes from Ricochet Media. Investigation, RCMP misled public about pepper spray incident at Ferry Creek. Big fucking surprise, right? Like, the RCMP doesn't exist. It exists to protect capital. That's what it exists for. Specifically, the RCMP actually exists to assault First Nations people. That's why the RCMP was erected, and it still does that. An exhaustive review of more than 90 minutes of footage taken from 9 different angles, interviews with witnesses, and information from official sources has disproved many elements of the police force's narrative and cast serious doubt on others. It fits within a pattern, says Jane Gerster, journalist and author of For the Good of the Force, an upcoming book of the RCMP. Historically, they get away with misleading the media all the time. They've shaped public thinking on so many of their actions. The priority is their image and always has been. Right? So, like, the police are pepper spraying people and then lying about it. Big shocker. And we know that the Ferry Creek incidents here and this blockade is the largest in Canadian history, right? So like, and it's only getting bigger. It's only getting more media attention. It's only getting more powerful as time moves forward. And this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? This is exactly what must be done. If I was living in British Columbia, I would be doing this. And there is even a little part of me that thinks to myself, I could just do it. I could just go down there, right? Just say fuck it, right? So just sacrifice everything I've got. And I don't know. I could probably do these live streams on the road, right? Just find like a Denny's or something. Set up shop with like a little laptop. I don't know if I should do it though. I don't know. Seems wild to me. These are wild times, I suppose. These are wild times. My dad's an ER doctor. He just got off of a conference call. His hospital is cutting his salary and everyone else's that works on the front lines because they're losing money from non-COVID patients. Cutting medical personnel's salaries right now? I mean, what the fuck? Neoliberal capitalism, it doesn't work. Not that it ever did. Like, these guys are going to take everything from everyone. Like, everything. Without exception. And it's starting to affect ER doctors, for God's sakes. Like, no one will be protected. There will be no such thing as a blue class or a blue collar or white collar or middle class or upper class or lower class or any of that. All of that is being destroyed. We will all be affected by exactly the same force. And that force is designed to swirl us down into entropy, like a fucking vortex black hole, just sucking everything in its wake. Like, is it going to have to literally be like ER doctor homeless in the street? Is that what's literally going to have to happen before we realize this system is a failure? I love this. Canada will put a cap on oil and gas sector emissions. For me, I think like, yeah, if you put a cap on a Coke bottle that you just threw some Mentos into, what do you think's going to happen? Like, we should be nationalizing this industry. And Canada will impose a hard cap on emissions from the oil and gas sector, he said. Okay. Calling the compromise, or calling the promise, a major commitment. How many major commitments has Justin Trudeau followed through on, do you think? That should inspire other resource-rich countries to dramatically curb their own emissions. Trudeau said Canada is prepared to limit the growth of one of the country's largest industries to help the world hold the global average temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius. So let's go through that sentence again. Trudeau said Canada is prepared to limit the growth of one of the country's largest industries to help the world hold the global average temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius. How much do you want to bet that the cap is literally going to be like, okay, so this is where the oil and gas industry pollutes to, so it goes up to here. We'll put the cap right there. How much do you want to bet? How much do you want to bet? We'll cap oil and gas sector emissions today and ensure they decrease tomorrow at a pace and scale needed to reach net zero by 2050. So I love this line, by the way. Net zero by 2050. Net zero by 2050. Net zero 2050. I'll stop doing heroin by 2050. How seriously would you take someone if they told you they were going to give up smoking by 2050? How serious would you take someone if they said, I'll stop beating my wife by 2050? How seriously do you think you would take any of these guys? If anyone was walking around saying, I will do X by 2050, how seriously would you take them at all? 2050 is 30 years away. 2050 is 30 years away. Yeah, world's oil reserves will be depleted by 2050 anyway. Yeah. Like, this is like the most non-promising, total bullshit, garbage thing that the liberals are coming out with. Who gives a fuck whatsoever? Who cares at all? And again, what they're doing again, right, is running a grift on us. That the fossil fuel industry understands that it needs to make some kind of concession. It knows that it's on the way out inevitably, right? But as Matthias points out correctly, they want it to end when the oil is over. That's what they want, right? They don't want stop doing this because it's destroying us. They want stop doing it because resource is over. That's what they want. And so they're creating a plan in order to deplete that resource by 2050 so that they can turn around and say of their politicians, look, we did it. We did it, right? Meanwhile, fucking Kamloops will have burnt down by then, right? Our entire country will be on fire, right? The line I keep using is, yeah, God promised to not destroy us with a flood. He didn't say anything about wildfires. And the idea that we can wait 30 years while these liberals dicker around. And so the fossil fuel industry understands that it's on the way out and that it is going to go out. But it wants to control the descent, which is what they did with the carbon tax, right? That's what they did with the carbon tax. That was a fossil fuel initiative. Hey, Harry, how you doing, bud? Water War 2050, exactly. That the carbon tax was a fossil fuel policy that was designed specifically to put people to sleep. That they would put forward this concession saying, look, we did a carbon tax. We taxed polluters. But of course, when you dig into the carbon tax, you realize that it's not the fossil fuel industry that's actually paying for these things. It's the consumer base that's paying for these things. So it's dispersed into the populace, and it gets put forward as oh, well, we put in a carbon tax, so now we can build that pipeline, right? Right? Because it's a negotiation we're having with these psychopaths. It's a negotiation, right? And so this cap will be another one of these, another way to grift the populace into believing that something is being done, when in reality the cap will be put at what the fossil fuel industry wants, right? So we pollute up to here, the cap is here, right? And it'll steadily go down from there. So, well, and of course we all know what that means. So we'll put a cap here, well above the level we pollute. So we'll just keep polluting at that level, right? Like, this is a scam. We should consider it a scam. These liberals are scam artists working with psychopaths in order to burn the country down. It's very, very obvious that that's their goal, that they don't care about us at all. Yeah, greenwashing big time, yeah? Yeah, joke about emission product while they continue to produce, or the 1/20th budget they spend on biofuel research. Yeah, exactly. That's the other part. Well, like, if you compare military expenditure to how much we're actually doing about climate change, it's a total joke. It's a total joke. Yeah, and net zero isn't fossil fuel zero, right? Like, they keep using net zero, right? So that means that the government will allow whoever to pollute as much as they want, but they'll create some kind of backhanded, like, look, we planted trees, so that makes it balance, right? It's a big step that is absolutely necessary. Do you know what the big step that's absolutely necessary is? The big step that's absolutely necessary is the nationalization of the fossil fuel industry. And not to mention the arrest of the people who have been lying to us about the nature of the climate change crisis, right? Never forget that we have an article, like we have a document called the Climate Deception Dossier, right? Never forget this. The climate deception dossier goes through very clearly and lists people and names and says outright who lied to us, who has been deceiving us, who has been funding disinformation programs. Until those people are arrested and put in jail, I don't take any of this climate change stuff seriously at all. Our politicians are obviously not interested, right? How do I know? They're not arresting the people who've been lying to us for the last 50 years, right? Very, very, very obvious, very, very straightforward that they are part of the problem. And if you think otherwise, then you're just a fucking delusional Karen Ken, just totally detached from anything going on in the world. It's really, 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 really obvious. It's really, really obvious. And it's great that they're actually saying out loud, it is essential that we move to a net zero emissions economy. So they know what we want, and they're going to do everything they can to make sure we believe that they're doing it while they completely fuck us over. Completely fuck us over. They don't care about the poor nations that are going to suffer from the rising tides. They don't even care about their own provinces or states. Right? When Victoria Island is underwater, they don't give a fuck at all. They don't care at all. 100% they don't care. They care that you think they're doing their job. That's what they care about. And here's how the conversation looks every single time. So, fossil fuel industry, how do we trick Canadians into believing that we care? Well, you could do a cap on emissions and say that that's an improvement. Oh, great, I'll do that. Hey, Canadians! That's what's happening 100% of the time. And, the jig is up. The jig is up. If you're still voting Liberal, you're voting for a corporate stooge who's attempting to lie to you. That's who you're voting for. So it's getting real obvious. Yeah, net zero is the new useless political talking point by the Liberals, along with Build Back Better and We Have Your Backs. Yeah, right. I would never trust a Liberal to have my back. Are you kidding me? The entire time I would be bracing to feel the knife plunge into the back. Liberal doesn't have your fucking back. The only thing a Liberal wants to do is get your vote so that they can go to fucking brunch with the fossil fuel industry to get their talking points to continue lying to the populace. That's all they're interested in. Yeah, we hired college students to plant trees poorly that will die in 2 years on poverty wages. We're helping. Did you see the offer Elon Musk made to end world hunger? If UN can explain how it will be set. So Ruth, I love this because it flows in exactly what I'm talking about, right? If you can be conned into believing that these psychopaths are actually genuine, then they will lie to you about it. So look at what he said, right? Elon Musk said, we can end world hunger. If you can explain how it will be spent and if you can prove how it can. So literally set a bar that can never be met, right? It's the conversation I've seen in the basic income narrative all the time, right? Well, I don't want to pass the basic income because I don't trust it'll actually work. Well, we've done a bunch of pilot projects and we've done a bunch of data about it and we have a bunch of information and evidence, but that's not a full-scale thing. I'll only trust it if it's full scale. You mean you'll literally only trust it so you'll only trust if it's full scale. So you'll only trust that a basic income works if a basic income is implemented. And you won't implement a basic income unless a basic income is implemented, right? So won't trust a basic income unless it's fully implemented, but won't implement a basic income because it has never been fully implemented. So Elon Musk won't end world hunger because it hasn't been implemented, won't implement it because we haven't ended world hunger. You see how this works? And he'll just constantly say the same thing, the data's not there, and I don't know, all that kind of stuff, right? So he'll never give the resources up in order to actually do the initiative because he can always fall back on, we don't have enough evidence, there's not enough there, all that kind of stuff. When give money to poor people. How does this fail? So once again, it's just another Elon Musk con, right? So either he's a total sociopathic, psychopathic grifter who doesn't want to relinquish 1/100th of his fortune that he won't miss, right? In like a Mr. Burns Scrooge McDuck kind of clutching his money bags kind of a way, right? Or he's so goddamn stupid, like so goddamn stupid, that he can't figure out that giving people money will let them eat. Yeah, Al Gore should be arrested for his climate lies, sentenced at The Hague. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Although the United States officially doesn't work with The Hague. Like, it officially doesn't. Because it's a rogue terrorist state. So it doesn't. So Al Gore will never. That'll never happen. Piecework tree planting is like trying to stop puke with a Kleenex. Gross. Gross. Yeah. Well, and meanwhile, like, while we're trying to resolve this crisis by, like, having teenagers and college students plant trees, like, 2 months out of a year for like a stipend, China is literally saying, hey, every member of the society needs to plant a tree, right? So like literally 1.6 billion people plant a tree. Like, and they build it in, and there's like a day where they all do it, and like there's a whole thing of celebration and all of this. It's like, yeah, like we could do a lot of stuff. There's a lot better that we could do. But we just keep trusting these inept, deranged, detached liberals who are obviously only attempting to lie to us. Like, obviously. Anything short of the full-scale nationalization of the fossil fuel industry is a joke to me. Like literally a joke. Yeah, of course, Slope, but they keep promising. Yeah, I haven't seen Bumbleguppy today. I'm worried that I broke up Bumbleguppy's heart on Friday. I hope that he's doing well, actually. I was thinking about him all weekend because of that. And he's not here, so that's that makes me a little sad, actually. I hope you're doing well, Bumbleguppy, out in the world. To be fair to Elon, never be fair to Elon. Never, ever be fair to Elon. The UN is a capitalist organization that will never work properly to solve the problems caused by capitalism. I tend to disagree, actually. Like, the UN routinely checks and double checks, right? Like, the Look at Venezuela line literally died because of the UN. The UN is the reason why that whole Look at Venezuela slogan stopped functioning. And the media retreated into its position of omission with in regards to Venezuela, because a document came out of the UN. Somebody went down to Venezuela and talked to a bunch of people and was like, "Yeah, it's the sanctions, stupid, right? Like, it's the sanctions that are killing Venezuela." And it tried to give like a couple of solutions to like what could Venezuela do. But in the end, it's like number one thing was lift the sanctions, which the UN does this fairly regularly, right? That there is, with a great deal of regularity, it will go into a region where there's a lot of propaganda and a lot of lies being said, and it'll release a document being like, this is what's actually happening. And it's usually pretty accurate. So it tells, like, the critique of the UN is that the United States has veto power. That's the critique of the UN, if you ask me. And what that means is that it is only a matter of time until some kind of UN-esque style institution is erected that excludes the United States from it. Or that the United States won't join it because they won't have veto power. And then as that institution rises in strength, the UN will decline in importance or usefulness even, because the entire rest of the world will just make arrangements with one another and make agreements, and they just won't care what happens at the UN because the United States basically rules with the power of veto. I keep hearing it more. Millionaires are doing it out of desperation. Yeah, because people are catching on, and yes, he is that stupid. Yeah, he's a very stupid man. Yeah, Elon Musk is so full of it. It's all about launching phallic-shaped rockets into space as a sideline hobby, vanity project to boost his ego. Well, I actually think that Elon Musk is instrumental in the militarization of space. That the United States military is fairly aware that it has fallen behind and it is going to continue falling behind, and so they need to militarize space. Because the Russians and the Chinese are about to like create moon bases and do stuff. And so the military needs to get into a position in order to stop them from succeeding at, being humans. And they are using Elon Musk as their like surrogate, right? He's their shield. No, it's not the United States military that's shooting a rocket and doing this and so on and so forth. It's Elon Musk's Tesla, right? So it's just like a shell company for the United States military, basically, which is why they're rewarding Elon Musk with so much money, right? That's why he gets all these contracts. That's why he gets all this kind of stuff. It's not because he's like a genius inventor type. It's because he's turned into another branch of the United States military. Like any kind of like weird R&D idea or any kind of like thing that they want to implement, right? They implement it through Musk and Tesla so that if it goes wrong or if it's not quite right or if it doesn't quite work, they can just walk away from it, right? Like it's obviously what's happening. Like there's no way any rational community would actually let just like a billionaire, like, can you imagine if Elon Musk was actually in charge of all of this stuff? Like he would be a significant military threat. Like you'd have to like you would have to be a complete dunder in the United. Like you're telling me that like, oh, Jeff Bezos shooting rockets into space. Excuse me. Hi, 4-star admiral here. How is that anything except a national security risk? Please explain that to me. We are allowing private individuals to have rocket level capability where they can attain space flight. That is a major national security risk. So absolutely the United States military is involved with Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and all this shit, man. Like, think about all the crazy technology that they're able to test on the public thanks to Bezos and Musk, right? Like the robotics stuff, the Jeff Bezos literally has a blimp that can fly drones and has flown drones into civilian territory. You're telling me that the United States military isn't using this as a cover for a drone program that they're going to implement on the public? Like, absolutely they're doing that. Abso-fucking-lutely. That's all speculative, what I just said there. I like to be extremely clear because I am a person who believes very much in source documentation. Everything that I just said in regards to the relationship between the billionaire class and the United States military is speculative. But to me, it seems extremely obvious. Like, yeah, the billionaire class and the military are working together in order to oppress the population. Seems pretty straightforward. Everyone adopt Chinese crypto. The Chinese just released, the CCP just released legislation saying that they're no longer going to abide by cryptocurrency transactions. So like they literally are saying like cryptocurrency no. And cryptocurrency is gonna, like, the cryptocurrency system is going to have to go away. It's an ecological disaster. The amount of energy that Bitcoin alone uses is the same as the country of Argentina. Like, it's a crisis. It's like a major disaster. Yeah, break up the central banking system. Just nationalize these banks. Create public banks. Right? If you created a public bank, you wouldn't need to break up the central banking system because the central banking system would cease to have any power. Right? If a person could go to a publicly owned bank as opposed to a privately owned bank, they're going to choose the publicly owned bank because they're going to get a better deal. Right? Because at bare bones, you don't need to pay for these like worthless capitalists who do nothing. Yeah, China and Russia also have veto power. It's the only way to get them to the table. But the United States is the one that consistently uses it. And uses it for like shitty reasons too. Like the UN will put forward declarations that food is a human right. And who's the only person that votes against it? Who's the only country that votes against it? The idea that food should be a human right. It's the United States. The sanctions are designed to starve people so they would rise against their government, but it doesn't happen that way, right? It doesn't actually happen that way. Because the people are aware of what's going on, right? That's how it goes. Like, the people are like, oh, we're under attack from sanctions by a giant superpower. We know that that's the case because we live here and we're aware of what's going on in our own country as we're being attacked by foreign invaders who want to invade us. And so in the case of Venezuela, the result was a swelling of their military, right? That the military force in Venezuela doubled over that period of time, right? What would you do? What would you do if your country was suddenly under attack by a giant superpower that was actually coming in to destroy you, your family, and your livelihood? You'd fight back, right? You'd fight back. And so this is the reason why the United States can't actually invade Venezuela any longer, because through the sanctions they blew up the military support of Maduro and the Venezuelan people, right? You can't attack them now. Like, that's over. And even more than that, the Venezuelans keep sniffing out all of their military plans. Like, anytime they send like Marines to go assassinate Maduro or something, they just get them, right? Oh, I know, buddy. I know. You're out of peanut butter. I know you're out of peanut butter, buddy, and you're gonna be out of peanut butter. Ugh, little guy. Just like me, I'm out of peanut butter. I should have peanut butter. Yeah, I know. No, don't worry about it, Victini. That's fine. I am of the opinion that everyone is allowed to be stupid if they say they're being stupid. Because then everybody knows, oh, he's just being stupid. If you're being stupid and trying to tell me that you're smart, that's the problem. But if you're being stupid while saying you're stupid, you're all right by me. Yeah, Musk is just part of the $250 billion military-industrial planned economy. Yeah, that's why you've got to save the economy, right? The Agenda with Steve Paikin are talking about why so many workers are quitting on tonight's show. Oh, good. I got to tell you, even though Paikin is a right-winger, like he's a conservative type, I find his show to be pretty good. Pretty good. Like, my critique is, like, obviously he doesn't have on very good leftists. And I say that because he doesn't have me on. But he's I think that he's pretty reasonable. Like, he's not actively trying to shut the conversation down. That he exists in that manufacturing consent kind of way, but he's definitely not the worst one. And I also think, funnily enough, that even though the name of his show is The Agenda, I don't think Steve Paikin necessarily has an agenda. You know what I mean? I think he's just happy to have a show, and he's happy to have people on, and he's happy to do these interviews, and he platforms people that I know are not with him ideologically. Like, I know that that's the truth, that he does that, and that gives him a lot of respectability to me. Like, that he's willing to platform some pretty lefty people. And and for example, when the basic income conversation was starting back up here in Canada, thanks to Evelyn Forget, Steve Paikin, Evelyn Forget, he had Evelyn Forget on almost right away. Like, very early days, Steve Paikin was having Evelyn Forget on and has continued to have her on. And so that to me gives him a lot of credibility. That he's less interested in, like, his own ideological position and more interested in, like, well, this is a popular idea in Canada today, so let's actually talk about it. And unlike other people who I see who only bring on, like, one side of the argument, and then the person they have on the other side who's their ideological other, they're very weak, right, and can be bowled over very easily. Paikin doesn't run it that way, and so I respect it a lot. Well, and hopefully somebody on that show actually points out that the reason why people are quitting is because it's a revolt. Quit your job. Get out of here. Stop. Just stop. Like, nobody's actually interested in helping us. No, like, the liberals are interested in bullshitting us this entire time. Like, they're not interested in actually doing anything. This place is gonna burn fucking down. Like, do you guys get this? Like, do you understand this? The place is burning down. That's not hyperbolic. Towns have already burnt down. Year by year, the place will get hotter and places will continue to burn down. Right? Like, you are going to bake to death in your apartment. Like, that's coming. It's here now already. Right? And your liberals are sitting there being like, we're going to let people pollute as much as they are now, but not any more than that. Shut up. Like, it's so fucking childish. And can you imagine actually listening to this and believing them? Can you imagine the type of person who's like, oh yeah, they're going to put a cap on pollution. And where are they going to put that cap? At exactly the level that they're polluting at right now. Isn't that great? And not only did they say that they're not going to lower pollution, they said that they're just going to not increase it as much. So I'm voting liberal, that's what I want to see. I want to see people who promise to keep doing the harmful behavior, but they'll feel real bad about it when they do it. Like, what is the mental illness that we have? Like, what is the name that we should give this mental illness that we have as a people? Because it is a mental illness. Like, it absolutely has to be. Like, we are destroying ourselves through an observable, obvious, scientific process, and we seem to be fine with it. Like, what is this mental illness, and what should it be named? Money-itis. But regularly, Alipay and stuff in China is part of establishing their own crypto. We'll see about that. I've seen, like, cryptocurrency can't be sustained. It can't survive. For lots of reasons, it can't survive. Like, one of them being the fact that it's incredibly polluting, right? For no benefit whatsoever. And then the other is imagine if a cryptocurrency became as powerful as a national currency. No. Like, no. Like, that's not going to happen. What if you're being smart while saying you're being stupid? Well, then that makes you extra smart, doesn't it? Really play the dummy. iPhone Vuvuzela Animal Farm Innovation. Human Nature Mud Pie Horseshoe. 1984 National Socialist Tea on a Man's Square. Hive Mind Dystopia. 100 million No Food Toothbrush. ECP. Totalitarian Equal Pay. Oh my goodness, mocked. That's the you did it. You killed me. All the right-wing arguments in a single statement. Thanks for coming in, Mock, man. That's good. Hey, Adam, how you doing? I don't know if I've ever seen you here. Adam McPherson. So glad you're here, bud. Hope you're here to contribute, man. We could use allies. Howdy. Oh, good start. Nice, pleasant howdy. I'm going to peg you as a prairie boy. What do you think? May I request that you turn on the auto subtitle feature for future live streams? I don't know how to. I know it's not perfect, but helps with hearing impaired. Thanks and take care. Okay, bud. Thanks for your feedback. I'll definitely look into how to do that. And yeah, absolutely. For the people who are with hearing impairment, if you don't want to listen to my smooth caramel silky voice, or if you can't, rather, you can at least listen to my my amazing takes. Doug Ford playing games, raising minimum wage to a big $15 per hour in 2022, according to sources. Well, is there an election coming up? Is there some kind of election coming up? Imagine being so disconnected and stupid that, like, you think, like, and this works on both sides. Like, imagine being so disconnected that you think giving people what they already had after you took it away is going to work. And then imagine being on the other side of that equation where you're like, wow, they raised it to $15 an hour. Wow. And again, how are the NDP not just standing up and being like $20 an hour? Like, how are the NDP just not standing out and completely outflanking them? Like, where are the NDP, eh? Like, where are these guys even? It's just I gotta believe that they're just playing the game of like, if the election season's gonna come and we're really gonna start pounding, right? A few years back, Agenda also hosted a debate on the issue of taxing billionaires out of existence. That's another good point, Aga. Like it seems like Steve Paikin and the Agenda are interested in what the populace is interested in. That's what they want to talk about. And I think that makes him interesting to me and valid. That gives him a lot of validity, you know? Even though sometimes I see him doing like pandering or leading questions, trying to get people into places. And I really respect that he's not trying to bowl people over. He really gives people their time to talk, right? And sometimes there's dissenting views. And when there's a lot of dissenting views, like Steve Paikin, he doesn't generally take sides. He doesn't pit people, you know. I really respect Steve Paikin just as for what he's doing, and because he could be another fucking Bill O'Reilly, just bowl people over kind of bullshit asshole, right? He could absolutely do that, but he doesn't. It truly is a death cult. Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot recently. Capitalist death cult, right? And like because somebody the other day really hit me with like, yeah, you're just being hyperbolic and you're just trying to get like clickbait. And I won't lie, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. I use the phrase capitalist death cult in basically all of my clips because I know it gets people to click on it. And I'm fine with that. Like, I'm fine with that. And I think the reason, although, why people do like it is because they see the phrase capitalist death cult and there's something about it that is like, it's true. They know it's true. It's certainly capitalist. Even the people who like the system call it capitalist. It's certainly a cult because it's not based on an economic principle, right? It's not based on math or science or anything like that. That its ideas that are foundational to its existence are strictly religious. And so it's obviously a cult. Like, the only way to believe it is to be a cultist. Like, it's to completely give up on evidence, facts, mathematics, science, reason, empathy, all of that, and just sacrifice everything at the altar of this religious ideology. So, and then what's the outcome? The death of the species. So it's completely the truth. It is truly a capitalist death cult. Speaking of mental illness, I linked a video in the Discord general chat called Mental Illness in Class. Top-notch analysis. I'll take a look at it, love. Written house trial started today. Didn't catch the live stream, though. Masochism plus capitalism. Maso-capitalism. Interesting. Maso-capital. I kind of like that, actually. Maso-capitalism. No Yanks. No tanks. You're saying no to the Prairie Boy thing. Yeah. And I will look into that, Adam, for sure. Is this for you or is this for someone else, bud? Yeah, wage slavery is still slavery. How you doing, Grinning? Good to see you, bud. Good to see you. All right, let's move on. I've already shown this one on the stream, but I absolutely love this one. Yeah, I worked 90 hours a week, destroyed my marriage, and didn't watch my kids grow up, but hey, we shipped an important product. Ah, well, at least you're rich now. Oh, no, but I have the satisfaction of having made other people rich. Completely deranged. If you think this way, you're deranged. Like, they're imagine sacrificing your life for nothing. Literally nothing. I can't imagine. Why are people quitting so much? Why can't we find any wage laborers? Why can't we? Because we're beginning to understand that we're selling ourselves to a capitalist death cult that is going to destroy us completely, let alone the full-scale abandonment that has already been inflicted on the populace. We're like, oh yeah, I'll work I'll work 2 fucking jobs, not be able to pay my bills, continuously fall back, and eventually be homeless. For sure gonna cooperate with this. No. Like, no. No one should cooperate with this. There should be 0% cooperation with this. There is little that is more humiliating than being employed under capitalism, yeah. It's not a labor shortage, it's a wage shortage. Wake up, sheeple. I think it's even deeper than this. Like, the conversation's gotten to there, DM, and I think it's not inaccurate, right? It's not. I think that you're right. But I also think there is, like, a larger existential underpinning to what is going on, right? That, like, even if they were paying wages appropriately, even if they were structuring things so that people were doing well and all this kind of stuff, we still get obliterated because of climate change, right? I think that there is a very large, unspoken, existential anxiety that exists in the populace that everybody knows is happening, but people don't want to talk about because it's very depressing to talk about. It is very difficult to talk about, right? Which is why I talk about it all the time. It wouldn't matter if wages were where they need to be and all of this kind of stuff. The place burns down anyway, right? Is it going to take Kamloops burning down? Is it going to take, like, Victoria burning down? Do we need Vancouver to burn down? Like, what do we need? Where's our line? Like, where's the bar? When we finally start realizing it doesn't actually matter. It doesn't actually matter how much they pay the wage if my children burn to death, right? That's the existential concern. Oh, hey, Robin, how you doing? I haven't seen you in forever. I haven't seen you around here forever. I'm so glad you popped in. Hi, John. Hope you're doing relatively well. I am doing relatively well, Robin. I'm gonna tell you, and I'll let you guys all know this, right? My Patreons are only going up. If you'd like to subscribe, be a Patreon. You get into my Discord. If you subscribe at the $5 level, you get access to my music from now into perpetuity. If you do it at the $10 level, you have my undying love and affection, and you can contact me directly and all that kind of stuff. Oh yeah, of course you've been busy, Robin. I believe it. And I mean, these days it's unreal what's going on in the world today. So please consider donating to my Patreon, right? If you are donating at about the $1 level, think about donating at the $5 level, right? The support helps. In regards to what's been happening with me and the channel growth, Patreon's been going up month by month. So every month has been a little bit better, right? Which is a win. And then on top of that, I've been uploading my music. Oh, for you, Robin, if you hit me in Discord with your email, give me a direct message with your email, I will send you my music, okay? And if you don't want to do that, guys, you can go to my Bandcamp. Again, it's in the description. You can find my music there and buy it directly that way, if you prefer to do it that way. I'm gonna be releasing probably 5 more songs, maybe in about 2-3 weeks. Yeah, and always thanks for being in my corner, DM, every time. Donate $25. It's the holidays. Look at you. Literally November 1st. And yeah, so things are... I've had to take a part-time job just on the weekends, so I don't get days off anymore. But it's a good job, good people, good tips, right? That kind of thing. I'm fitting in really nicely there. And so things are... I'm not quite to the point where all of that is paying my bills all the way, but it's in sight. I can see it. And then on top of that, I'm at 741 subscribers right now, which puts me almost exactly on track for what I predicted the growth of the channel would look like. And once I hit 1,000, it's possible that the channel will begin to monetize, and I'll also get a little bit of inflow that way. So that's just an update for those of you who care about the monetary level and what's going on with the channel, and everything. Yeah, honestly, everything's going really well. I'm really glad that I actually told you guys that, because things are actually going well. I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop. And the reason why I have that kind of internal feeling that there's another shoe that's going to drop and something's going to happen to me is because that's what's always happened. That my experience being alive is anytime I get onto a trajectory where things seem to be going well, something happens and dismantles the entire thing. And there's been almost no exception to that, by the way. Like, that's every aspect of my life. That's every aspect. So I'm constantly, in regards to this channel, in regards to what I'm doing, I'm constantly like, when's it gonna stop? Like, when is this whole thing gonna collapse? When is it all gonna, when's the wheels gonna come off? And I'll be back where I started at ground zero again. We'll see. Hasn't happened yet. Hasn't happened yet. Yet another reason to get into my Discord, by the way, so that when that happens, you'll actually be able to contact me to find out what the hell, where did I end up. Awesome. Thanks, Robin. I hope things are going well with you, honestly, Robin. I think about you fairly regularly, so I hope you're doing well. The book by Greta Thunberg's mom, Our House is on Fire, highly recommend. I'm getting more and more skeptical about Greta. I gotta tell you, I'm getting more and more like, yeah, they let her in to like Davis and all this kind of stuff, and they talk to her and she says her speech and everybody goes like, wow, she's so strong and powerful, right? And then a bunch of people go to sleep and like, hey, buy my merch, right? Like I'll buy these books and all this kind of stuff. And I look at somebody like Greta and I'm just starting to say to her like, hey, go to the halls of power and surround them. Why aren't you telling people to go to the halls of power and surround them? Like, why isn't Greta just doing that, right? And there's this notion that exists even at that level of this conversation that we'll be able to negotiate our way out of this. The people who are in charge of this are psychopaths. They are not going to negotiate their way out of it. The negotiations that they're having with us is what we're seeing manifest in the Liberal Party. Oh, we'll put a little cap on the pollution. That's exactly at the level we're already polluting. Oh yeah, we'll do like a carbon tax, so you pay the tax. Well, we're exempt from that tax, by the way. Yeah, these are the negotiations that the psychopath class is having with us, and they're not going to actually work, right? Like Greta, and Greta has been co-opted. Right? She's just been co-opted into this. That like, Greta is the face of the youth. You youth don't actually need to stand up and surround the halls of power and demand something be done. We platform Greta, right? So the concession isn't that we're doing something. The concession is that Greta gets to speak, right? Like that's what's happening. And until she actually starts saying, we need to surround the halls of power, until she starts saying to these guys' faces that I'm coming to your house with 1 million people to surround your house, I think Greta is I wouldn't be too surprised to find out that she was just put up by the fossil fuel industry itself in order to control the dissent. Like, we need to surround these people's houses. We need to surround the halls of power. Like, there's nothing left. Greta's not going to save you. Her mom selling this book is not going to save you, right? Like, and don't get me wrong, like it's probably a good book, but like, unless it contains the words "surround the halls of power" in it, I don't take it very seriously anymore. Like, we know, you know, it's like when a politician stands up and says, "Climate change is real and we need to call to action for it." I'm like, I know, like we know, like stop telling me about it. Like, I know. What are you doing about it? Oh, fucking nothing? Interesting. You are correct about Greta, but I was actually pleased with how honest the mom was about the climate change crisis and how scary it is. Yeah, I mean, that's something. That's something. That alone actually does contain value, right? That alone does contain value, because there is like a spiritual and existential aspect to this, isn't there? Right? The anxiety and the depression and the fear, and just like we're simply not dealing with it. Like, and the same is true of this pandemic, right? Like, we have PTSD as a people. Like, this event has scarred us. For sure it's scarred us. But like, we're not doing anything to actually look at that and say like, hey, like, holy shit. Like, holy shit. And like, in the United States, it's as oblique and open as it could possibly be, right? Like, imagine going through a healthcare crisis and then trying not to do anything to improve your healthcare system. What? Do I have some stuff in here about... Yeah, like, one heat wave in BC killed over 1 billion sea creatures and nearly 600 British Columbians. Inaction at COP26 Glasgow is violence. Once again, another one from Masses United, another really good one. Nailing it. I should actually let them know about that one. This one's really good. Yeah, incredible that 745,000 Americans died from COVID, tens of millions more lost their livelihoods, and hundreds of millions sacrificed their lives for more than a year, and absolutely nothing changed. No universal health care, no basic income guarantee, nothing. Yeah, I can't imagine why that happened. Like, why do you think nothing's happening? Yeah, life increasingly unaffordable for low-income Canadians, right? Like, it's going to get very obvious, like very obvious, very soon, that the ruling class does not give a shit about us. That it's all manufacturing consent, it's all controlled dissent. Like, they don't care about us at all. In June of this year, 26.1%, or 6.75 million Canadian households, were low income. That's 2 million more than 3 years ago. Low income household are defined as either one person earning less than $25,000 or two or more people earning between $25,000 and $50,000 combined. The report, which is meant to measure how low income households have fared since June 2020, also found that 40% more households can't afford essential expenses, an increase of 10% from almost a year ago. You're seeing the swirl down to entropy, right? The strikes are exactly, I think they're more than mildly encouraging, Robin. The strikes are where it's at. The strikes are the thing. Like, and they're just starting. That's the thing that is like, I gotta remind myself, and I gotta tell other people, the strikes are where it's at. There are big wins happening at. There are big wins with happening at Fairy Creek. The Fairy Creek blockades and the protests that have been happening there, they've been experiencing big wins. So where are the victories happening? Right? Where are the victories happening? They are happening through non-participation, through striking and blockading. Those are the victories, and they are victories. And they show us that Chrystia Freeland said something in an interview that has really stuck with me. She said, what we're seeing is that it's really easy to shut the economy down, but not so easy to wind it back up. And my response to that has steadily become more and more, isn't that just Freeland admitting that capitalism is easy to dismantle? It was easy to dismantle. We could dismantle it at any time. And it's actually quite difficult for this religious ideology to exist, right? That to kill capitalism, all we have to do is stop participating in it. Erect support systems, right? Guarantee people housing and labor and all this kind of stuff, right? Guarantee them these things outside of a free market capitalist system, and it will and you'll kill the capitalist system. But to wind capitalism back up actually takes the full force of a military, police, right? Millions and millions and millions of dollars of capital, right? That's the only way. So like literally they're admitting that the system doesn't work. It's easy to dismantle. And all you got to do is get in the way of it. And it looks like that's what we're doing. Yeah, COVID only enriched the super rich. And she talks about how much effort it takes to deal with it and how freaking tired she is. She can't give up because this is the world her daughters are going to inherit. Yeah, to me, this is a responsible parent. Sorry, now I'm done with Greta. We'll see, man. Like, Greta's still young, right? Like, Greta's still young. And not only is Greta still young, but, like, look how much headway she's made already. I could see how somebody like Greta could believe that, like, oh, I've done so much. I've already been... Like, she doesn't necessarily want to be the person who has to lead the charge, right? And I understand that. But, like, that's what needs to happen. Like, these guys are not going to do stuff just because we want them to. Like, since when has that ever happened? Like, we got to get the pitchforks. We got to get the torches. Like, we got to show up at these guys' place. Like, it's very clear. It's already obvious, but it's easier to ignore it than to admit it. Yeah, that's the truth, Ruth. That really is the truth. They have always relied on the desperation of the public to fuel their slavery machine. I wonder if this time that desperation will transpire in a different way. I mean, we are seeing a funneling into the PPC. We are seeing a rise of the far right. We are going to see, in the United States, it's going to be very obvious, right? The United States is absolutely going to fall into a civil war. Like, it's absolutely the case. I at this stage, I think it's actually unavoidable. I don't know how they avoid it. Like, for them to avoid a civil war, you are looking at, like, some major figure is going to have to come out of America and act as, like, a Gandhi-level figure in order to prevent the civil war that is coming to unfold. Yeah, the strikes are only the beginning. People are just starting to wake up. No, yeah, he's absolutely right, Robin. Like, that's absolutely the truth. Because what I just said there, where, like, there's a civil war brewing, like, it's coming, people are afraid of it. And they know what needs to be done in order to prevent it, which is to blockade it. Yeah, I'd like to see the 401 blockades and halls of power being surrounded, absolutely. I put a link in Discord that puts the living wage for each Ontario area. Toronto is $22.60. Yeah, exactly. This is what I'm saying. Like, the minimum wage being set at $15, like, and Doug Ford doing it as cynically as he possibly can. It's so fucking bullshit. When you work a job at a place with fellow employees, you understand the power of all those coworkers deciding not to show up together. Yeah. And it seems to me like there is a brewing happening in the populace to do walkouts, to stage walkouts on Black Friday. You want to fucking talk about a devastating blow? You want to talk about a devastating blow? You're talking about staging walkouts on Black Friday. Like, it cannot be overstated that the neoliberal death cult cannot miss Christmas. It can't miss Christmas. That if everybody wanted to actually kill this system, right, the way to do it would be to starve the beast. Just stop buying Christmas gifts. Stop participating in it. Straight up. Don't buy the decorations. Don't buy the cookies. Don't buy the costumes. Don't buy the gifts. Don't buy the gifts. Don't do it. Don't buy the gifts. Like, just straight up say, we're not going to participate in this any longer. And that would absolutely destroy the capitalist system. That to the point where it might not survive. Like it needs Christmas. Christmas is so important. I think it will blow up in the USA within the next year or so. Dude, like you wait until the midterm election happens and things swing back towards the Republicans. And then the second term of Donald Trump. Like Donald Trump's second term, that's going to be real bad news for everybody. That's going to be real bad news for everybody. Like without exception. Like no one is going to walk away from that. And like internationally, it's going to be a total disaster. Internally, it's going to be a total disaster. Like it's going to just be brutal to see. And in my view, the second term for Donald Trump is basically written in the stars, because like the Biden administration is doing nothing, and like nakedly so. Like oh, it's cinema, yeah, it's cinema and Mansion. They're obstructing. Like if you believe this, you're a very gullible person. Like a very, very, very gullible person. It's there's even a term coming out for this called rotating villain, right? Where they just like, oh, it's this guy's obstructing it now. It's him who's obstructing it. This isn't a plan. This isn't something that we're all agreeing should happen so that we can pretend as though there's a reason we can't do these things, right? And then once the House swings back towards the Republicans, it'll just be like, oh, we do it, but those Republicans are obstructioning, right? And then Donald Trump will get in because why? Biden's people won't show up. Trump's people will. It's very straightforward. Like, look at how hard they had to work to get Trump out in the first case. And they galvanized the anger of the populace. And now those people are not going to show up. They're just not going to show up. If they don't pray at the altar of capitalism every day, they'll stop believing very quickly. Yeah, it's idiocracy, man. Like, more and more people are citing that movie to me. Like, it's coming up more and more. Idiocracy, for sure. It's just so fucking dumb what we're doing, eh? Like, it's so fucking dumb. Like, it's gotten so dumb that the best thing for us to do is actually just sit down. Like, literally just sit down and just be like, what? Like, no. Like, just stop participating in this. It's the parliamentarian. All right. Obama gave way for Trump, and Biden will give him a second term for sure. Yeah. And it's very much following the same trajectory as the rise of Hitler and this is the Weimar Republic period, right? That after Hitler had an election where he almost rose and seized power, and then there was a period of time where his opposition gets power, and that's the Weimar period with the Weimar Republic, but they don't really do anything. They don't really seek to alleviate any of the problems that exist within their society. They don't actually try to diffuse the anger coming out of the increased poverty as the upper classes abandon the populace, which is exactly what was happening. And then an exhausted, beleaguered, and angry populace put Hitler in. Hey, so this is breaking news from the Toronto Star. Doug Ford to increase minimum wage to $15 an hour January 1st. Sources say, like what? Press X it out. So, hold on. If he does, it means he's really as scared of losing, wants Scott Liberal vote. Yeah. Like, it's an election season. And honestly, dude, if people are gullible enough to fall for this as like wow, Doug Ford does care about us. $15. It was already going up to $15 an hour, right? Like, Wynne put in legislation that if she had have won the election, it would have gone up to $15 an hour anyway. And in fact, when Ford won the election, he could have simply allowed that to pass, and it would have gone up to $15 an hour anyway. And so now it's looping back around, and it's looking like it's going to be a tight election, and a pretty crazy campaign, if you ask me. And so he's trying to be like, yeah, well, I'll give you that $15 an hour now that I need it for your vote. Like, if I ever talked to anyone who was like, well, he did raise it, I'd be like, you're a fucking moron. Especially now with the way inflation has worked, right? Like, the minimum wage should be set at like $20 an hour now, right? That the inflation that we've experienced as a people has chewed it away. Like, has completely chewed away any benefit whatsoever. No, it's election season, dude. That's it. I'm seeing this all over the place. It's classic political grifting, right? And like, at least he's doing it before the election, right? At least he's not just saying it as a promise. Yeah, it should be 25, but whatever. Let us starve with a 15. Exactly, dude. Exactly. Now, this report, I'm going to hang on to. Source document. Like, I wonder if they've got, oh yeah, they got cool graphs and shit. Like, these guys are saying, straight out, what is it? So 6.75 million Canadian households. That's like 20% of our society. Like, Canada only has like 36 million people in it. Like, this is working though. Capitalism, 100%, completely working. Not a total failure. Not a complete and total failure. Like, I hope I get to a point where I actually get to start talking to people who actually think that capitalism works. Like, that would be great. If some podcast invited me on so that I could actually talk to somebody who actually thinks capitalism is working. Because I think you've got to be completely detached from reality to think that that's the case. Like, literally, I think your entire life is living in a cubicle exclusively. I don't think you live in the world. Like, yeah, your system's completely working. It's littered with homeless people who the cops beat up, right? Like, oh, I'll just kill this guy in the streets. That's fine, right? Normal society. I just like this one. Gordon, we need you upstate, Batman. Poison Ivy is destroying a fracking site. Yeah, I know. She already ran it past me. I've kind of loosened the reins on her lately. I think she might be the true hero in all of this. But what she's doing is illegal. So is what I do. What you do is different. I physically beat the poor and mentally deranged. But she's growing plants all over an innocent oil and gas platform. Think about that for a second. Oh no. Are we the baddies? Yep. Yes, we are. Every time government regulates business, it's an admission that capitalism failed. Yeah. Like, and why are we negotiating with this anymore? Like, why is there a negotiation that's happening whatsoever at all, ever? Like, it seems to me like here's how the conversation should look. We here at the government want this to happen. Other talking point coming out of private owner, nationalize. That's what the conversation should look like. Your input is not desired or necessary. That's what I would say to these guys. Like, your input is neither necessary nor important. We will not take it seriously. You are free to say it. We are free to ignore it. That's what these guys need to be told. TVO is streaming. Why are so many workers quitting? I wonder why. But this is the thing, Vince, is that there are people who wonder why. They're called liberal voters. There are lots and lots and lots of liberal voters. So, like, take a look, that last article we were talking about, right? So 20% of the society is living in poverty, right? Is actively getting abandoned. More and more we're seeing that this is the case. Homelessness is spiking, right? So, but if you go on the other side of the society, right, in the top echelon, like your top, your 90% or 80% of your society, why are people quitting? I thought that people really liked standing behind a counter and taking my coffee order. I really thought people liked it when I shouted at them and asked to see the manager. Like, they're called liberal voters, dude. Like, they don't know what's going on. Like, and it's getting, like, look at how easy it is to placate these guys. Look how easy it is to placate liberals. Like, all you've got to say to them is, oh yeah, we'll put a cap on emissions. And suddenly they're like, oh, yay! Yay! Yeah, I know, buddy. I got him. All you got to do is say, like, we're going to have a carbon tax. And they're just like, yeah, carbon tax. So got it done. Oh, wait, are we the ones paying that carbon tax, or is the fossil fuel industry paying that carbon tax? I know, buddy. I got you. It was me the whole time. They just didn't, like, they don't know what's going on. And they're so rich. Like, really think about the trajectory of these people's lives, okay? This is your liberal voter trajectory, okay? I got born probably into an affluent family into the first place. I went through school and just did what I was told to get the A's and to get all that kind of stuff, which got me into university, where I just keep doing what I'm told because that's how you get ahead. You just obey. And that gets you into the nice paying job where what do you do there? Do what you're told, right? And they know that they can hire you for that position to do what you're told because that's all you've ever done. And you've got the grades to prove it. And now your society is collapsing around you. And you're beginning to ask, why is that happening? Because all you've ever done your entire life is what you're told. Right? That's all you've ever done is what you're told. And if you actually tried to tell them, so the problem is actually you, they're not going to have any idea what you're talking about. Because if all you ever have done is what you're told in a capitalist death cult, then you are one of the strongest adherents of the death cult. Are we the baddies? Are we the baddies, do you think? Yup. And because liberals are highly obedient, well-trained lapdog types, they can be easily deceived, right? This piecemeal reformism, all you got to do is say, carbon tax, cap, look, we're doing things. And people be like, oh, God, things are God. That's it. And I don't see that ending, by the way. Like that's the other part of it, right? Because, like, basically you're trying to say that highly obedient, well-trained lapdogs are suddenly now going to revolt. It's probably not going to happen, right? So what does that leave us with? The weirdos. Hello. Yeah, it always gets me when they talk about child poverty being ended, but they won't pay parents daycare 22 per hour. They don't give a shit. Yeah, they're called liberal voters. Liberal voters are just, yeah. The way you said, I thought they liked me to call the manager. It's so true. Yeah. No, they don't. Like, and who do you think the Karens and the Kens are, guys? Like, the Karens and the Kens are not actually conservatives, right? You have different types in the conservative group, but the Karens and the Kens are liberal voters, right? Because they've spent their entire lives being obedient and getting into positions where they expect people to obey them. And so when they're interacting with staff, they expect obedience. Why? Because that's all they've ever done. And that's how this whole thing works, isn't it? Through obedience. Just obey me, right? I'm in a position where you need to obey me because I had to obey them, right? That's how it works. You're not obeying me. I'd like to speak to your manager, please. It's all about obedience. It's what it's about. The debtor class has everything to lose. They're scared. Yeah, you have to buy in with credit cards and mortgages. Yeah, there's that too. Karens and Keds are 40 plus LibCon voters, but being under 35 and voting Liberal in 2021, yeah. Well, I get why people voted for Trudeau initially. I think it would have taken a very astute political analyst to not to be at the age of like 30 and not be swayed to vote Liberal. I think that would be fair to say. And then the next election where they lose power and get into a minority status, I still see the type who's sitting there being like, no, the Liberals they've acknowledged that climate change is real, which at the time was a big deal, right? They've acknowledged that climate change is real. They seem to be going forward. They're saying all the right things. But now it's over. This last election, are you fucking kidding me? The Liberals could not have looked more like corporate stooges if they had tried to. Like, I think literally the only way the Liberals could have looked more just in bed with corporate power is if they had to come out and been like, hey, we're the Liberals. We're in bed with corporate power. It's literally the only thing they could have done. So, like, in the last election, I think people are just exhausted and confused. And so I'm just like, okay, fine, I'll forgive you. But if you're still voting Liberal, like if you go into this next election voting Liberal, I'm just like, I'm happy to spit on your shoes, dude. Like, you've had so many occasions. Like, it's like that boyfriend who beats your sister up, right? And you're just like, no. Like, do you not see how this guy's bad news for you? Like, eventually you got to kind of step in there and, like, you know, give this guy the business. Why would a 30-year-old vote Liberal? Like, fine, I get 2015, even though I knew he was a sellout, told everyone to ignore him. But 2019, yeah. 2021, yeah. No, I mean, fuck them. Be as harsh as you want. Fuck them. Like, fuck these guys. Like, it's no, I'm over these Liberals, man. Like, I don't need it. Seriously thinking of becoming a demotivational speaker. Someone needs to tell people to take a break and chill the fuck out. We aren't just here to work ourselves to death. Yeah, that's kind of what I do, right? I'm kind of a demotivational speaker, right? Like, this system is designed to destroy ourselves. Why would we participate? Like, take that break. Take that break. Put your feet up. Procrastinate a little bit. Don't rush off and try to please your boss, right? Like, so alarming finding, 30% of Republicans say violence may be needed to save U.S., poll shows. 30% is an enormous number, by the way. Like, most of the research done on political movements says that if 10% of the society thinks something, that the rest of the society needs to deal with it. That something like the marijuana legislation that came through, right? The legalization of marijuana. Well, only about 10% of the populace was pushing on that, right? And so it's forced the conversation to happen and eventually went through, right? Something like the basic income having the mass support that it does and not being pushed through is fairly indicative of what's going on. But it's not leaving the conversation, right? So if 30% of Republicans are interested in violence, right, that means it's in the conversation. That means when you're walking around in America and you're seeing those dudes carrying those guns, 30% of them think that they need to use it offensively. Yikes. Yeah, Elon Musk vows to sell 6 billion Tesla stake if UN can show it can solve world hunger. Yeah, so it's the responsibility of the UN to show that it can do it, not for Tesla to just give the 6 billion in order to do it, right? So, you got to show me that you can do it before I'll do it, but I won't do it until you show me you can do it. Yeah, my bosses never liked me because I never gave them a minute without paying Canada. Europe, it was never asked of me. Yeah, absolutely. Explain to us, how do you decide how to allocate resources? And who does what work on Earth? So you see, on Earth we have a free market. So resources are efficiently allocated to meet the needs of the people, based on market principles like supply and demand. Entrepreneurs own the factories and workers sell their labor to them. How can you own a factory? Oh, that's easy. You just have a piece of paper saying that you do, and the state enforces it with police. But what I don't understand is, why do the workers obey the people with the pieces of paper that say they own everything? No, they aren't obeying them. They are entering into a free contract in order to earn the money they need to survive. That sounds a lot like how we keep beasts of burden as slaves in our primitive societies. No, you aren't getting it. It is freedom. I don't understand. Why don't the workers, being the larger class, simply destroy and eat the smaller class who commands them? Let me show you some of the charts again. And with that, guys, that's an end to this. Oh, apparently the greatest indicator of future civil war in the U.S. is the lack of education for young males and lack of opportunity for young men to make economic gains. Yeah. Like, if you give a warlike people nothing else to do, they will eventually go to war. Right? I'll say it again. If you give a warlike people, like white people are, we've always been a warlike people. We love war. We love war. Not only do we love war, we love the most vicious, cruel, and brutal form of war. Right? Other nations and other societies go to war, but their wars are like closer to sport in many ways. Our wars are about death and domination and control. That's what they're about. And so if you give a warlike people no project with nothing to do, well, what are they going to do? And with that, I bid you good night. Thanks for being in the chat as always, guys. Thanks for being here. You guys are the thing that makes this thing amazing, I gotta tell you. Like, without you, I'm just some crazy guy talking to himself in his room. and each and every one of you is super beautiful. I'm so happy that you guys are here. Please give the video a like, a share, a subscribe. Think about donating to that Patreon. Always remember, each and every one of you is a divine being walking around in divine energy. These guys are gaslighting you with hundreds of billions of dollars instead of coughing out 1/10 that amount to make sure that you could manifest your full potential. We should stop them. Good luck. We're going to need it.